All right, up first, we're going to have a quick Zoom meeting here with Labella staff. Ray will kick us off and explain. Labella has been the architect at the 911 center out there, so.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So we do have a pair of gentlemen from Labella Associates. They're the architects of record for the 911 center. They've been working with us on the design plans through the bidding process. We did receive bids from contractors. And we're here to discuss that because they did come in much higher than originally anticipated. So we want to have a brief discussion. Unfortunately, due to prior commitments, the folks from Labella have to join us virtually, but I thought it was important to get them into this discussion and go over what some of their findings are. So briefly on my end, just to let everybody know, we had worked with Labella. We had preliminary estimates as far as the construction costs on top of the estimate that I had prepared. Initially, we were in line with one another as far as what we anticipated as far as costs. We continue to work through the design process, and we formally went out to bid. We received bids a little over a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. There are 4 contracts on that project because of the cost for construction. Anything over $500,000 has to be broken up into at least 4 primes: general construction, electrical construction, plumbing construction, and mechanical construction. Although we did have a fairly good turnout as far as number of contractors that had picked up, out of the 4 contracts, we actually got 6 bidders on those: 2 general, 2 electrical, 1 mechanical, and 1 plumbing. I had provided within the documentation with my agenda a breakdown of each one of those. In addition to that, I provided you today, my apologies for the short notice, but I just received it yesterday, was additional correspondence from Labella regarding their analysis. Because once we got the bids in, Labella contacted the low bidders to obtain additional information, including a schedule of values that really provides detail as far as actually where all of the money is going to. Okay, so with that, I'll pass it over to Labella.
Right, initially we were 2 million.
We were just under 2. We were just under 2.
So, hello everybody. This is Pasquale. I apologize. I'm in my car. I have a 6 o'clock. I have like Ray mentioned another commitment. So I'm here with Rich Campagnola, is another architect and project manager that assisted with me the Columbia County project. As Ray mentioned, we didn't have a good turnout as far as potential bidders, because like mentioned, we had the 2 GC, 2 electrical, and then 1 mechanical, 1 plumbing. And this reflects a little bit those high number we got it, and looks like we paying some high premium on the scope than we have designed. We have presented a letter of recommendation, and based on our analysis. So between the time we received the bid and let's say the beginning of the week, we have a contact all the bidders. We receive, like Ray mentioned, the schedule value, and we had some discussion with the bidders why those numbers, because we say, listen, the number looks a little bit higher than we thought. So we got some feedback, but at the end we had also our estimated department and everybody from the discipline take a look at those numbers and see how the price was breaking down based on the scope, and everybody was pretty much, we got a unanimous that those numbers, they are a little bit inflated. And the only reason I think we can give at this time, because they are so inflated, is probably the bidder than we got it, they had already scheduled work. So they bid the work in the way like, if I get it, I'm going to get a good profit. If I don't get it, it's not a big issue for me. So so that's the reason that as a conclusion of our recommendation letter at this point, based on the funding that the county has available and based on those numbers, we recommended to rebid the project probably in a September, October period of time where all those contractors that had the summer work, they are closing out their work. We can do some strategically, we can touch base with specific contract than we usually work and maybe extend the period that we had, I believe only 3 weeks. We may go to 4 weeks because some of the contractors they have mentioned, we receive, I believe, two or three requests to extending the bid date. But because we were trying to stay in a schedule with the county executive meeting, started construction and the construction, we tried to stay on the schedule. Unfortunately, now with the number we got, that the schedule obviously will not work. So as a final, we recommend the county to rebid this job around September, October. Rich, anything else that you want to add?
No, I think as Ray initially mentioned, we had a good number of interested plan holders. A lot of those were very qualified contractors who did not end up submitting a bid. Because of this type of building being an essential facility, you really do have to have a certain qualified contractor. It's not just anybody who can throw up a metal building can do this kind of building.
Were we planning on using that money for the schools?
Yeah, so as part of the scheduling, there are a few things. So between now and going back out to bid, obviously we need to incorporate, and I recommend that we incorporate some value engineering. And again, that's based on some of the discussions that LaBella's had with the contractors, about some of those big ticket items. Where could we potentially save some money as far as the overall construction as well? So between now and rebidding, we'll look at some value engineering. In addition to that, we do have to take a look at schedule. So we are utilizing ARPA monies for it. So we still providing for a fall scheduling of bidding that would still allow us to potentially award and then enter into contract before the end of the year. Because obviously we'll need to at least enter into contract in order to utilize the ARPA funds, according to Jim Bragg. He indicated that that's how it's allocated. When we indicate that it's allocated, that the fact that a contract has to be in place. In addition to that, there's a SAM grant in the amount of $500,000 associated with the funding that we received from the state as well. Based on the information, we have 3 years from the date of the execution of the agreement, and that agreement with the state was executed back in March of 23. So we'll have the March of 26 to expend those funds. So again, that's not going to be an issue, but I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that because that was one of the other funding sources that we were utilizing. So again, overall, it was unanticipated. Again, we're going to take a close look at some value engineering. We're going to do a better job as far as trying to provide an outreach to various contractors so that way we can get a better input as far as number of bids, and hopefully that results in more competitive bidding the next time we go out.
As Paul said, it was 3 weeks bid time. And
it was a little over 3. Yeah, it was just over 3 weeks, the last bid time. Again, we'll have further discussions, but we'll stretch it out to 4, if not 5. Again, a lot of it will depend on.
We get it out in August and let it have some time.
Right. I think the key would be, as long as when we structure the documents for the contractor, that the contractor understands when we anticipate, moving forward with construction. Although we may bid it out in the fall, we may enter into contract in the winter. We may not expect them to work over the winter because obviously that's going to increase construction costs as far as concrete, heating of the concrete, things of that nature. As long as we identify that we want them to start in March, then we're not going to pay that premium during those winter months. So we'll need to work on some of that language for that to take place.
And if you're not cozy in the humidor with those guys,
Yeah.
Have you been in the 911? It's cozy in there. It's pretty close.
It is essential, so we're providing the essential equipment that they need. But there are
And,
some, to what Pascal had indicated, I mean, as an essential, facility, it's not normal construction. So again, as an essential facility, I'm going to overemphasize this, but if everything else happens outside of those four walls, that facility can still be in operation. Obviously, it needs to be. That's the purpose of it.
Right.
So again, there's a backup generator system for it, even for the servers, because again, the server room, Brian currently has issues with the existing server room heating and overheating, and that becomes problematic. So we have multiple air conditioning units for that. It has a primary and then a backup as well. So again, all of those items, we did anticipate that during the initial estimates, but again, because of the lack of number of bidders, we think that just compounded the issue.
Right. Were there any of the four scopes of work that increased more than the others, or did they all increase at about the same rate? There are four scopes of work.
I would think and Pasquale, I'll leave it to you. I think the general construction I thought was the most
Yes.
impacted.
Yeah, you're right, Ray. So general construction was higher, but even the other one, they were higher than expected. Like we talk about plumbing, there is a minimum plumbing, toilet and a sink, plus ice maker, the water line for the ice maker, and came up, what do we say, 72,000 for this guy's scope of work. Now, we did also in general, we calculate like if we sum all the lower bidder and we divide by the square footage of the building, we still come like more than $1,000 a square foot. Then a facility like that with really all the furniture, FF&E are coming directly from the existing facility. There is nothing other than recessed floor, nothing out of the ordinary. We don't have a sprinkler system. We don't have anything like the wall are pretty much are the most expensive part of the building because they have to be to classify for that kind of occupancy. But other than that, we honestly, I was shocked reading the first number we read on the GC part. I had to kind of rethink myself because I thought there was the number that was for whole building and not just for one trade.
We also saw that even in the mechanical number, our engineers estimated based upon the equipment, it was to be $50, $60 a square foot. Came in over $130 a square foot. And the only thing there that can be attributed to is like equipment already being committed for that they'd have to, advance the orders for. So with an extended bid period and an extended construction period, they'd have more lead time on equipment and things like that. Similar in the electrical bid.
Yeah.
Well, we're not the U.S. military. We can't afford those rates.
Correct. That's why we're rebidding.
Mhm.
So my recommendation based on the recommendation from Labella would be to prepare that resolution just so there's a special meeting before the full board that occurs in June. Sorry, John. So that way the Public Works Committee can convene and formally pass that resolution. We'll rebid it.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll set the dates as far as exactly when that'll happen
right.
later on.
Okay.
And I'll keep the committee up to speed on that.
We don't need to vote on anything tonight.
No. Yeah, because I didn't prepare a formal resolution because, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, if you want to, that's a motion and then just get the resolution over to us and we can share it.
If that's acceptable,
If the chairman wants
I
to
can
do
do
that. I
that.
mean, there's no sense in having a special.
Resolution to rebid
All
it.
in the, yeah.
I can do that tomorrow morning as far as getting a formal resolution.
So if someone wants to make a motion.
Yeah,
to-
the resolution, sorry guys, even though I don't know exactly how the Columbia County operate, but for at this point the resolution would be just accepting our recommendation of rebidding the project at this point. So at least you setting the dust down, and then we can move forward for the new dates.
Correct, right. Well, actually, it's a two-step. So my recommendation is that someone provide a motion to accept LaBella's recommendation to rebid
Correct.
and then formally reject all bids.
I can, that one.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Now you want a second motion to go out and rebid it? Or-
No.
No,
Okay.
no, we'll bring that.
That'll be forthcoming in the upcoming months.
Yeah.
But I'll prepare a formal resolution and get that to you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So now.
Thank you,
are
Pascal.
Are you doing?
Thank you both.
All right.
Bye,
Anything,
guys.
yeah, thank you very much. Sorry again, we couldn't be there, but. all
Okay.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
That sunroof's bigger than my own shirt.
All right, I'm gonna just find there.
All right, up next, we have Centrica is here with a proposal. We had asked, I think many of you know Mitch. Can't remember your
This is Jacob Tatro,
Jacob.
solar engineer, yeah.
But Mitch has been with us through many projects, and we had identified some potential money that the Climate Smart committee may have earned, or Donnie had looked at, the need for another project like in September timeframe, as long as we complete some other projects. So we talked about what other project, and one of the thoughts we had was trying to put solar on out at the solid waste department out there. And I know, Wendy can tell us that she's got a new digester out there that's consuming electricity, and we thought it'd be wonderful if we could offset that electric cost with solar. So as a potential future project, I asked Mitch to take a dive into that. So there, I'll turn it over to Mitch and let
Thank
you
you.
take it from there.
Thank you. Good to see you guys. I feel like we see you about this time of year every year. Last time we saw you, I think it was the DSS project, which is currently substantially complete. And we have a solar system on the roof there, a new roof, and it's producing pretty well, isn't it, Jacob, at this point?
Yep, we've been seeing great production out of it. We went and looked at the solar edge monitoring tool, and everything's, reaching maximum output by, early morning most days. Well, most sunny days.
Yeah, so we did a lot of that, so I don't know.
That was 50 kilowatt, or was that?
Yeah, so 50 kilowatt AC, about 74 kilowatt DC on that one.
Yeah, we had to downsize because of national grid. So,
Yeah.
But good to be with you again. I know you're running late. This should be pretty quick because it is just a solar piece. But I do want to take the time before we get into this. I don't get to do this every day, but I get a chance to present a check to the county from the highway garage project we completed. So we did, if you guys remember, a new roof and about 180 kW solar array there. And so this check is actually from NYSERDA. It's for $65,000. So very substantial. So not only are you guys saving money on your electric bill and actually crediting other accounts, but you're getting money back from the state for it. So
Awesome.
great job. Congratulations on that. I don't know who wants it, but I'll hand it over to you. I'm sure there's places to spend it, and it's probably already called.
I already showed PJ a picture. I said, every
There you
time
go.
PJ gets nervous, every time Ray and I come around, he says, you're spending too much.
There you go. You're like, here's a good return on that
Right.
investment.
So we had planned on that.
There's a new bridge later on.
So you got some extra money to spend.
That was identified early in the project as
Yeah.
it would be there, but
Yeah.
Centrica did help us get it. So
Absolutely. And there's another one coming for DSS, actually. It's already been approved and
Yep.
should be another one we can deliver to you. So,
Should be coming in soon.
but we don't always get it. You guys usually.
Yeah,
get it. So
right.
when I get it, I like to have the chance to turn it over to you.
Well,
So that's
I
exciting.
thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Today we're going to be looking at the system overview. So this is preliminary assessment. So really preliminary designs of what a solar system could look like at solid waste. So we'll look at that. I'll let Jacob go into that because he designed it. look at the economics. And as Ron mentioned, you guys have done a really good job leveraging the jobs that have already been done to get in line for some serious money that's now available. And now you're looking for a job to put that money towards. So this could be a project that you could do that with. Some assumptions we made, and we'll get into that just because it's preliminary. There's some assumptions that we have to make as we get into the next level design. We'll dig into those and get real answer to those assumptions. And then the project plan is really just the next step. So Kelly, if you want to go to the next slide. Jacob, I'll have you get into the details on this.
Yep. So as you can see, it's a bit of a spread out system, very small, 38 kilowatt DC roof mount system. The two northern rooftops, those are flush mount. Same with the southeastern section, and then the southwestern roof. That one would be a ballasted roof system because that roof is, I think it's like a 1 degree tilt on that new building that you guys put in. Estimated production for the first year is about 47,000 kilowatt hours. Your utility cost at that, from my analysis at this solid waste plant, is around 10 cents. Estimated first year avoided cost savings would be that $4,885. That's your savings from your electric bill due to the solar. Another nice sort of rebate for this project, a little bit smaller than the highway and the DSS project, but still a nice rebate of $9,000, just under 10. The IRA direct pay, that's your 30% ITC from the federal. That'll be $46,000. Since it's such a pretty small system with your new digester on site, you guys are using quite a bit more electric at this site. So this is only going to offset about 17% of that of your total electric bill. I know that northern picture looks very tempting to put more solar on, but the aerial picture is a little bit deceiving because that roof is actually tilted like this. So that back portion of it, we can't really put solar on because one, it's not facing the sun, and it's tilted towards the north, so it'd see very little sun. So we could only get onto that front lip of that building. And also with the solar system, you're going to see a greenhouse reduction of 33 metric tons annually. And with the solar system, you'll see an estimated localized cost of energy of about 9 cents, 9.7 cents for your electric produced by the solar.
And then there's two buildings in the middle. We didn't recommend putting them there. From talking with Ray and Wendy, those buildings aren't structurally sound to be able to support a system at this point. Certainly, if you guys decide to invest in new buildings there, we could look at it. But the four that we picked are good candidates. We will look at structural analysis as a next step. We originally, because you did just put in the new building down on the southeast western part, we actually originally didn't know that because our images didn't show it. We had looked at putting ground mount system there and then realized that new building was there. So, there was an opportunity before the building got in to do more, but obviously that building's there. So this is about the max we can find right now here. There is a benefit though. So for being small, this also allows for a quicker interconnection process with National Grid. We anticipate it's going to be a pretty automatic approval on the system versus sometimes that's a big hurdle we have to overcome. And the other piece Jacob hit on the bottom. So your levelized cost of energy, that's really locking in whatever that system produces over a 25-year term. You're locking in at 9 cents with rates going up significantly. So right now you're paying 10 cents here. That's likely going to go up year over year. We're seeing a 3% increase. So wherever you can develop solar, you're locking in those rates for whatever you're producing for that 25-year period that you have the system. So there are some benefits there. And you're seeing, if you go to the next slide, Kelly, you're seeing a pretty good return. So the overall project cost is just under $155,000. The IRA direct pay, which again is a new option that was available just from the Inflation Reduction Act, is just short of $50,000.
That's automatic. It's not competitive or anything.
Correct.
That's automatic.
Yep. So you have to go through the process of filing that with the IRS, but it's a flat. It automatically starts at 30%, which is what we showed here. There's options to beef to increase that up by 10% if you want to buy American-made panels and inverters and everything else, which we could look at as well. But right now, that's showing the basic 30% IRA direct pay. The rebate from NYSERDA is another 10,000. So you're seeing, $56,000 coming back in incentives. So really, the out-of-pocket to the county is $98,000 for the project, with a good return on the energy that you're going to be getting. And again, as I mentioned, Ron and the rest of the team have done a really good job leveraging the previous job. So there's a lot more money that is going towards this job that you wouldn't have if you guys haven't been tracking along like that. So it's a good candidate for funds that you're looking to use towards energy benefit.
And you don't think on this size of a project, there's a capacity issue with National Grid? I mean,
No.
this was in the same block as the DSS building, and there was concerns on that. because-
Yeah, but very similar. So with National Grid, anything under 50 kilowatt AC, they can fast track it, and
Okay.
it takes very minimal work on their end to either approve the system or not. But this region, I looked at the capacity maps from National Grid, and that area does have, I think it was between, what was it, between, I think it was under 150 kilowatts. You're okay.
You're
So
okay.
then there's a little bit of room to play with in that region.
And this is the same circuit that the highway garage.
Right, it is, yeah.
So it's right behind there. And
I don't know if we maxed it out by doing that.
yeah, no, I mean, I think we saw it on DSS. Anything under 50 kW AC is
Yeah.
pretty much they're good with,
They're okay with.
which this is well below that. So
Right.
we don't anticipate that being a problem.
No, our numbers, so they substantially higher the installation because it's so spread out all over multiple buildings.
Somewhat, yeah.
Well, this
Jacob
would
can
be-
talk a little bit about that.
This one will be also be self-installed by us. So it's gonna be, we're actually going to be utilizing these micro inverters. So each panel will have an inverter. They mount to the back of the panel, and so you'll have actually less DC running. So you won't have really any DC wires besides the wires from the actual module into this micro inverter. Then you'll have AC runs, and then all the AC will tie into each one of those buildings. All we're gonna need is 1 to 2 20-amp breakers in each of the buildings to tie the system in. And it should be pretty straightforward, very simple install.
Yeah, so part of it was because it is chopped out. Obviously, every system has probably some fixed costs there. But the microinverters, because it is such a small system, you have to have one for every panel. So there's a little bit more cost with the inverters. It does make it a lot easier once you get them up there. But Jacob said, we have our own install team that would be looking to do this as well. If they want to, and we'll certainly look at others as well that would could look at bringing some of that cost down.
And
How
we
much
just
more
did
is
a beautiful-
ground mounted? Oh, go ahead.
Well, we just did a beautiful job getting all that blacked out up there now. Now you're gonna have to cut across all that to run all those lines back and forth those buildings.
No,
No,
They're gonna tie into the
They're tying to
actual.
the actual-
Yes,
yeah, so every
Okay.
building has its own service, so.
That
No, I brought that up early on.
That came up very early on.
Yeah.
So that's part of the other reason why we're doing it this way, so we can tap into the panels that are already there. Yeah.
No,
And he
I
wouldn't let
proposed
us do
ground
that.
mounted, we got to cut the asphalt, right?
Right.
What's the factor right now of ground mounted versus roof mounted? That's like a generic cost comparison. Is it like 4 times, 3 times? I mean,
I would say ground mounts, no, not that much. I'd say ground mounts probably 35 to 40% more expensive than a rooftop system.
Yeah.
Carports
when you add structure, let's say you make one of those carports that they're doing now.
are the most expensive.
They are.
Yeah.
Okay, so you look at the employee parking area and you figure, oh, right there, you could throw up.
We could.
Lots of
20
steel cost that doesn't give you a payback. That's the thing about, there are incentives, obviously, the IRA. So anything you pay in addition, you're gonna get 30% on it. So you're getting some of that back. It's all relative. Typically it's roof mount because you already have something to mount to, utilities to tie into. So that's usually the most inexpensive. Ground mount and then carport canopies are definitely the most expensive.
We can't sell enough compost to pay for that upgrade, right?
Yes, Brenda.
So I'm focusing on the 17% in terms of the capacity that you're going to generate for this location. If the building roof were rebuilt or redone over the next few years, how much capacity could that potentially add?
quite a bit more.
Well, those center roofs were a lot more appealing.
Right.
I would want a stab in the dark would probably be closer to like the 40 to 50%, I would say, just because I think we'd be able to double the size of the system with those roof sections.
Yeah, originally, I think with the ground mount system, we were looking to at least offset your full production. And we did an initial design that we can certainly share with you to get a better idea of that. And then after meeting with Ray, Ron, and Wendy, we realized that we were off a little bit. That new building we didn't account for, and then the rate of the roof on the northern building was off. So that changed it a little bit, certainly.
So Ray, is that the age of the roof or is the structure of the roof?
It's a little, yeah, so keep in mind that those buildings date back to when the facility was first built, generally speaking.
Originals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they are pre-engineered metal buildings, and when those were first put in, the building code isn't what the current building requirements are as far as snow loads and things of that nature. So again, anything that Centrica would do, or any other contractor, as far as adding panels, when they evaluate those structures, they actually have to evaluate those based on the current code, current snow load requirements and so forth, versus when those were installed. And that's the real issue.
That's the limitation.
Yeah, and we had actually talked in the past, the current top load building that we use there, the first building is, something that if we were gonna do anything with that roof should get redesigned and raised, for more tipping.
That's possible.
Right, so if that was gonna, let's not put solar on it,
Yeah.
That's not an immediate plan, but it's a consideration. And the brown building's not much good at all, so.
The nice thing is a nice small system, and if you were to replace those buildings and put new ones up, we can put a similar system in after the fact and tie it into the panels. The
Because of that
microinverters. Yep.
With the
Absolutely.
blessing of grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, it wouldn't
That would
be
be
that
down.
much bigger. I don't see that adding the capacity too much to the grid. Yeah, shouldn't be a big deal.
I mean, we could look at other items, spreading them out, placing them along the main steel, different things of that nature. But by the time you do that installation, and as Supervisor not indicated, if at some point in the near future we modify that roof, now you're gonna have to strip all of that off. It's better to just wait,
Yeah,
see how things play out as far as any modification of those buildings, and then incorporate a future project.
And that 14% is based off of your latest energy bills. I kind of did an estimate of what I'm seeing from that digester increased power. I kind of spread that across this full year so we could kind of get that. It's 17% now, but it could be, a little bit higher, a little bit less than 17%.
it depends on how much you're using. That's your equipment that's using all the energy. So if you're using a lot, it's gonna offset a little bit less than that.
Have you guys been around any waste to energy systems?
Like the digester you're talking about?
No, like the incinerators.
Yeah, we haven't, no. Yeah,
So if the micro inverter, is that what it's called?
Mhm.
That's like blocks, right? So if the digester were to get bigger, you could just add more of those micro inverters on the digester.
Well, we would need to work with the utility first. So say like this project's greenlit, and then like next year you guys say, oh, we're putting a new building up, let's put more panels on this new building. Then we would just kind of start the process over, go to National Grid, say, hey, we're trying to do 50 kilowatts on this building. Do an interconnection application, see what they say. If it's okay, they'll give us the green light, then we can build. And then, we could just add more blocks.
It is kind of the building block system.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
its
much. So
advantage.
each module will have its own microinverter, and then each microinverter ties into each microinverter until you get. I think it's for the specific one we're going to be using is the Enphase microinverter, and you can have up to, I think it's 13 panels with each one with a microinverter, and that'll tie into a 20 amp 208 volt system. And then you have, so say you have 26 modules, then you would need 2 20 amp openings in your panel board to tie into it.
Thank you.
any other questions on the design or site specific questions?
Again, can I just see you before you leave tonight? Sure.
Yeah. Sure. All right, so we made some assumptions. You know, we did go out on site, we looked at what we could, but go ahead, Jacob, you can roll through this.
Yeah, so this is a prevailing wage rate. Is due to the incentives, you have to be a prevailing wage for them. Behind the meter interconnection, that just means we're behind your actual electrical meter. Excludes a feasibility Caesar study, which is just an extended study that National Grid would do if we're over that capacity that they are allowing in that area. But since this is such a small system, we're not really worried about having it get kicked to a Caesar study. This also assumes that you guys have enough room in your current electrical breakers in each of those buildings that we can tie in 1 to 2 20 amp breakers for the solar system. And then rebates from NYSERDA and direct pay will apply to these projects, like we showed in our the previous slides. And then right now NYSERDA is in block 10 for upstate non-residential rebate. So that's it's a 25 cent a DC watt incentive. So every DC watt you have, you get 25 cents from the NYSERDA rebate. And then we're also assuming a rate escalation of 3% annually for your electrical costs for that solid waste treatment plant. And then we're also assuming that the PV structure that we have PV on can hold the proposed system. We usually like to see for the standing or the ballasted system, we like to see about 5 PSF additional load capacity for that roof, which since it's a brand new structure, I'm sure it has it. And then the other additional, the other additional 3 roofs, those are all going to be flush mount systems. So those ones we like to see 3 to 5 PSF. But we're making the assumption that they can. If we move to IGA, we'll confirm it with a structural engineer. So we're not having your roof fall in.
Sure. So this is the next steps. It's the same process we followed with you guys in the past. So if you want to move it to the next phase, we would issue a task order to go into the investment grade audit. And then we would go into full design and look at a lot of things Jacob just touched on, structural design of the electrical system, and come back with a final project, final fixed costs that we can then build the system for. And then from there, we would bring it back for final approval. And then work through the design, submittals to NYSERDA, following all the code, procurement materials, and then build it out. And then after that as well, and I don't know, have you guys been on the, did we give them the access to the tracking the system on both DSS and highway?
Yeah.
System?
Yeah, we have
I can't
that.
remember what system. Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't seen the
Also
DSS is on
energy.
there, but I know
Okay.
that, I know the highway garage.
They're
does.
all on.
Okay, all right.
Perfect. So you'd have the same thing there. You'd be able to tie right into that and see the
On that same
generation
system.
on that same
Yep.
system as well. And O&M services as well would be provided if you guys choose to have that for this system to make sure it's operating the way that it's intended to.
Yep.
So, that is it
That's it.
for the presentation tonight. Any other questions about the system or the project? as it
About the
stands
one we
right now?
just built, is it running to projected values on sunny days?
I think it's actually beating it because we were pretty conservative with our estimates, and on that project, we're using bifacial modules. And in our estimating software where we actually design the projects, they don't, they can't account for the bifacial
Can
gains.
you explain what that is?
So yeah, bifacial modules, they're a little more see-through. So the back of it, usually you see like a white panel on the back of a module that blocks pretty much the sun, but these ones are a little more clear. So the reflection off the roof surface to the back of the module.
And it's a white
Somebody's
roof on
thinking.
purpose, yes, for that
Right.
reason, yeah.
And they collect more ambient light than.
And yeah, they project
Right.
3 to 5% gains in production. But as of right now, the DSS projects is producing it's reaching its maximum power output by 9:30, 9 o'clock sometimes in the morning. And then it's holding that until about 3 or 4.
Maybe already here in the spring, so.
All right, yeah. So it's running really well. We're really happy with the install.
Yep.
Our install team is very happy with the install, and they like seeing it produce what it's supposed
Yeah,
to.
right. Again, you guys have access to that too, so it's, and I think, did you put it up on the website?
Yes, it's
Some of
on
it is.
the Climate Smart, on Donnie Meltz's Climate Smart website, you know, you can go there, anybody that wants to look at that information, it's there. Yeah, I guess I haven't even tuned in to see the DSS building on that site, but I know the other one was.
Is it an app or
Is it what?
is there an app on the phone or is it a?
There's an also energy app.
Yeah,
You would just
you can
need to
get the app.
figure out the county's login. I can't help you with that.
Yeah.
I'll take engineering's word for it.
Well, you can actually go right up onto the website, because again, it
Yeah.
does display, Donnie does display
Yeah.
the actual outcome
Yeah,
for each facility.
and there's a couple extra slides. This is just at the end. So this is the IRA direct pay. So this is how we calculate that 30%. So you got the base rate plus prevailing wage, those bottom two buckets, 24 and 6, give you that 30%. And then there are options from there to build it up another 10% at a time, if you want to look at that. And then the last slide, I believe, is the greenhouse gas. So I know you guys are certainly tracking this with your committee. This would certainly play into providing some more value with the greenhouse gas reduction by doing a solar array at this site, and hopefully get you in line for even more money from the
Right.
state if you can. So, some of the nice other benefits from the project.
So timeframes, you know, we're anticipating that we may have money for this project in September timeframe. And again, I think one of our goals is that we needed a project to set our eyes on, you know, so we kind of need to have the project a little bit more designed, you know, so, if the committee is good, I'd like to, you know, move this ahead. But Ray, what are you gonna do with this? You wanna have them bring a resolution next month and
Yeah, what I-
actually do a formal
Correct.
enter into the,
Yeah, so what I'll request is that Centrica submit a proposal as far as the energy grade audit. And then that way I can present that to committee.
Yeah.
In the June timeframe.
Right.
And then we go to full board in July.
Okay.
And that would still provide us ample time
yes, I think so.
based on when we anticipate those additional pools of money to come down.
I shouldn't think the investment grade audit is gonna take too long in
It
this
won't,
process.
and the
Yeah.
interconnection is usually the long lead, but because we anticipate being just kind of a.
Right.
It should be fine. So yeah, I'll send over that task order and should make it easy for you.
Okay.
Sounds good to us.
Any other questions for Mitch and team while they're here? We certainly have enjoyed working with your team and, done some good projects and,
Yeah, likewise. If you guys haven't had a chance to get out to some of the projects, we were just actually back at the jail, and that was built during COVID, and we brought our controls team and some of our other people out there and took a look in the boiler room and the control system. It's pretty awesome what we've been able to work with you guys on, and it's a testament to your team. Your team's great and easy to work with.
Ray and
So
I talked about
it's been
another
very
project for
successful.
another year, but we won't go there yet,
It's
but.
been really good. If you can get out there, I mean, you obviously have DMV, Treasurer's Office, DSS. It's
Yeah.
been very successful, and we're really happy working with you guys. So thank you for what you do with that.
But the contractors that Centrica has brought in, I've been on site and, all of them have been professional, workers, and the workmanship and the products that we've purchased have been, exceptional in my mind. So.
Good. Awesome. We agree here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
especially, again, the most recent project, the DSS project, which has been challenging because of the fact that the space is being occupied by the office staff at
Yep.
DSS. And the contractors have been able to work around that. We've been able, have DSS move furniture. But again, the contractor's done a very nice job working in that condition and still getting their production done. And the staff at DSS has been very understanding as far as minor inconveniences. So it's been a good teamwork on that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
We thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
All right. On to our regular business. We have highway. If Tony didn't fall asleep back there yet.
I told him to be along. When did you get nutting?
He said he's gonna be ready to be home for a beer tonight, but,
And he has no resolutions.
I did my part.
You did your part.
Short.
okay.
Thanks, Tony, I appreciate it.
Can we buy him a new truck for all the money we're saving?
Yeah, actually, we did that in ARPA today, right?
You sign that right over.
Yeah. Can you spend that, you know?
I know. I seen it coming.
I think TJ knows where it's going, though.
We're gonna try it too, but we might have to replace the roof beforehand.
Bye, guys.
So we're currently, finishing up our spring work. All of our snow and ice equipment's been dismantled. Sweeping the county roads, I believe, is done. Washing bridges. Mowers have started, both at the airport, and roadside, the ones that are up and running. Right away cleanup's been completed. Crew's been cleaning blacktop ditches and, doing some, catching up on some driveway culvert installation. We got a crew currently working over at, no, we completed 401 State Street. I was gonna say we have a crew currently working on 911, but that's not on. They're working in that parking lot over the 911 building. Culvert replacements and drainage work on County Route 19 in the town of Livingston. That's begun ahead of the planned reconstruction for that stretch of road. Catch basin installation down on County Route 7 in the town of Ankrum. And we still have a crew working up at the Greenport transfer station project. We hired one part-time laborer. That's one of our watchmen. And we hired one MEO1. And we got another one that's currently awaiting a drug test. One employee out on extended medical leave. And I had 2 employees out on workers' comp. One of them returned on Monday. The other one has a follow-up, I believe, tomorrow. So new business. Obviously, the state passed the budget this year. The current runs, the chips stayed the same, which we'll take as a win. There was some talk that they were going to do some cuts, but everything stayed the same, so that's good. So with that, it's $2,453,638 in chips, $384,997 in EWR, $629,190 in Pave New York, and $409,460 in Pave Our Potholes. That's a total of $3.887,285.85, which is, like I said, the same as last year. Additionally, we have $1,047,711.19 in rollover funds. Some of that brings it up to a total of a little over 4.9 million. Those rollover funds include the plow trucks and the mower that were ordered in 2022. We did receive the mower. It's nice. We brought it up to the Ghent Equipment Show, and then we promptly trucked it back down to the dealer yesterday because it's not running properly.
Oh, boy.
So, look pretty, Andy.
Look pretty.
Yeah.
So we know which one to avoid from a municipal. What'd you buy? Is it a New Holland?
It isn't wrong, but I feel like, I don't know, it just seems like everything we buy, no matter what it is, what kind of piece of equipment it is, there's issues with it. It's just nothing.
I know, I bought a Kubota tractor for a park, I had it for 2 hours, and there was a pool of hydraulic fluid under it. Like,
Yeah.
Well, that's easy, as long as it's not electronic.
Right, yeah, right, yeah.
Well, I guess
It's not easy because they took it and they haven't brought it back. It's been weeks.
Yeah, I know that's the problem. That's the other problem too. When you send them out to get fixed, they don't come back. Still no word on the 2 plow trucks as to when they haven't even made it up to Wax to get the plow equipment on yet. So, and that's it. I have no resolution requests. That's all I got this time.
I should let you know that there is $150 million for a public pool if we want to do a public pool. Can't get any more CHIPS money, but there's $150 million for swimming pools. So, okay.
Get a pool and to catch yours.
There you go.
Can we call it?
Speaking of right away, Clarence, though, Crow Hill, you got a nasty big tree that's like right on 7.
Yep.
Over wires and.
Whereabouts?
Almost at the highest elevation point. So if you come from Philmont side and you're going towards Austerlitz, you get to the highest point and you start coming down a little dip and you'll see right there on the right. It's big, it's dead, and it's gonna be a problem.
Okay. Did you make a mental note of that?
I'll be going by if you want me to take a picture.
We found that if the 2 of us make a mental note, there's a chance.
That one of you might
that one of us
remember
might
it, right?
remember. All right, yeah.
All right, any other questions for Tony?
Yeah, I wanted to thank your sign company, well, your sign department. I called them and had a good conversation about trying to get some crosswalks on 203, but Yeah, very helpful. Yeah, you said I should lean on you for help too.
Nice. Sounds about right.
So
Yeah,
I won't bother you with it right now.
Sounds good. Is that?
All
All right.
right, nothing else, we'll go to solid waste. Wendy has no resolutions either.
I have
so-
no
all right.
resolutions.
This is great.
It's a pretty
I'm
quick
loving
one.
Nothing to do tomorrow, right?
You'd be surprised.
So May the 4th was a success. We averaged about 1.8 cars per minute. Took in over 146 or 120, 426 cars that day, and it served well over 500 households. So we were busy. It was a 4-hour event, and it was hopping the whole time. April events, the NASAR conference that I attended was very successful. I heard a lot about the diverting food scraps from landfills. I learned a lot about composting. We're one of the only counties really kind of doing the food digester thing, so they were really interested in that. And then I also went to Hudson City School District on Earth Day and did a presentation. Earth Day this year was about plastics. So we talked a lot about plastics, and then I just kind of mentioned the food scraps. I think I might be going back out there at some point to talk more about food scrap and composting and recycling. And then we attended the Big Truck Day event at Stuyvesant, which was a huge success apparently. And we had a lot of interest in our garbage truck. So that was really fun. Drivers had a really good time out there. So that was kind of a fun
Great.
event.
No, we thank you. It was a very good
Yeah.
event. Yeah.
So our department right now for May, we're busy with town cleanups. We just sent out the household hazardous waste bid for the 25 and 26 year, beginning of May. That'll come back in June. Our scale recertification was today. Scale passed, no problems. I did get a little heads up that our load cells are going to not be made anymore. So they are going to reach out to me with a quote for possibly purchasing a few to have on hand we just had them replaced a few years ago.
Yeah.
So just to have some in our arsenal if we need it. And then yesterday we hosted the Dutchess County Environmental Management Council, and a few of their legislators were there as well. They wanted a little tour of the Eco-Rich machine and talk about that. They were there for a couple of hours. They're looking into possibly doing some digesters down in their region. So they were very excited to see what we were doing and how the product looked, and that was exciting.
Good.
Our major thing right now is recycling. So we just did a recycling audit. And what that means is all of our stations. So there's 8 total, including Greenport. We have recycling containers at all of those stations that are manned. They are brought into the Greenport station and then offloaded in our recycling top load building, which is the newer building. We're having, in full disclosure, having a little bit of issue with batteries at the moment, lithium ion batteries specifically. Residents don't know what to do with them. They don't know how to dispose of them. And we're finding them kind of everywhere, but they are showing up in our recycling a little bit, which is a fire hazard. So we decided to do an audit. And so all of the containers from all of the stations last week were unloaded individually, and we went through all of the recycling. So me and a few of our employees went through, almost 20 tons of recycling over the course of, the 3 or 4 days that we did it. It slowed down our production a little bit, but we found a lot of interesting things. So it was good for me to do that. I took a lot of pictures. I was right there in it to see what was happening. And so we need to ramp up our educational campaign for the recycling that we're doing here in Columbia County at our stations. And it's difficult because every curbside pickup recycling collection is much different than our recycling. We only take certain plastics. Curbside will take all plastics, right? So when you're coming to, or if you're moving from out of county and coming here, protocol is completely different. And so we need to ramp up an educational campaign. And so I'm just hoping that I have your support, and also that I can reach out with some educational material, and maybe all of the supervisors can also help spread the word. I would love to get the clerks involved, especially those with the supervisors that have a station in their town, to just help hand out this information, maybe do a little PR or have a press release at some point. So I'm hoping that I can get some support from y'all on that. Moving forward, I do also want to say that this is going to be kind of a slow process. We're very short, we only have a few people in the office. So all hands on deck, it's still going to take me quite a few months to work out this information. I am updating our website. So if you haven't been on our website, it's updated almost daily at this point. And I've been working with Sherry over here at 401, and we are doing a recycling encyclopedia, which will be a new aspect of the website. And I'm basically kind of thinking about every single thing that I saw that is not recyclable and putting it on this list, A to Z, of what it is and what to do with it, right? So like ceramics, we don't take that in recycling, it's garbage, or donate it or do something like that. So it's those kind of things. We were seeing, diapers and pet pads and pants, shoes, and everything in the recycling.
I don't interrupt you. Do we get penalized by our contractor for contaminated streams?
Right. So good question. And yeah, when we have, I'm not 100% sure how the bills are working right now. They're going to be changing now that our recycling is going back into a Casella facility versus where it was going. So we will be able to see contamination rates a little bit better. We weren't seeing any of that when it was going to Sierra Processing, but we were also paying an awful lot of money. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. We weren't getting any.
Yeah.
If we have a more marketable product, they could give us more money, right?
So I wonder, it just wasn't set up for us to see it like that, and it was hard, transparency-wise, to get that information.
Right.
So moving forward, within the next, 3 or 4 months, we should be able to kind of have a better idea of how our recycling is and what it looks like, and hopefully our bills are going down. Our guys do really try to pull stuff out, as far as even once it's on the top load floor, the guys in the loader will see stuff that aren't recyclable and pull them out. So, I mean, we're constantly trying to make it as clean a process as better. And we are working with our our station attendants as well. They need to be more mindful. They need to be more on top of that as well. So it's a full office effort where the whole department is stepping up, and we'll all be making changes.
When you speak of the education and trying to make it more uniform across the state, Jolene and I probably 5 years ago met with a whole lot of DEC staff and actually advocated for the state to actually step in and do some more standardization, because to your point, if you live in Westchester and then you move here, the standards are completely different. And it's funny, there's times that the state wants to step in and control us, and then there's times that we wanted them to and they wouldn't,
Right.
They wanted nothing to do with it at all. But it would help statewide if there was some different standardization over what gets recycled.
I think we're in an interesting predicament because our hauler specifically collects plastics that they have a known market for. And so that's why we take 1, 2s, and 5s,
right,
and why we're not taking 1 through now 8. They've added a new one. But
some people are taking it and throwing it all in the trash. So it's
right. So, and then there are haulers that are taking all plastics, single stream plastic, on the side of the road, even here in Columbia County, might include all plastics. So it's hard to have an educational campaign specific to our stations, but it's necessary.
Needed. Brenda, you had a question too? I'm sorry.
We're trying to reconcile two things. We have a transfer station, but we noticed that our numbers year over year are about 13% for the first quarter in terms of volume. So I'm wondering what the year over year is for your numbers, if that's possible to obtain. And the other thing is our town clerk reported Monday night that our sale of recycling permits has dropped because of the increase in the price. And I'm wondering if you have any information to support that. I've asked for records because I just want to make sure that they really have dropped. We're not just saying they dropped, but there has, I know there's been a lot of, not a lot, there's been pushback associated with my own recycling rate. So we're wondering if the reduced number of recycling permits is ending up with more recycling materials in the landfill, and that's why our
Here's
numbers
the
are up.
tonnage report. that-
I have the tonnage report,
Okay.
but it's not year over
Okay,
year.
all right.
It's not year over year.
Okay, so this is a
Year to
month.
date.
of this
How you
year.
read it? Thanks.
Right, I don't have, I actually was, I am not prepared to answer the question on the recycling permits.
Okay.
But I can very easily put those numbers together and give
Okay.
them to you at the beginning of next week, if
I
that's
have an
okay.
emotional reporter, so I just want to make sure that in fact, the fact that we're selling less permits is accurate.
I did notice that the Canaan clerk specifically is selling less. I don't know across the board how that looks. I will say that, yes, the Canaan clerk is selling, has sold less as compared from last year's
Okay,
numbers.
so that's accurate.
That is accurate information.
So that may account for the fact that our numbers, that people are just taking that recycling and putting it in the trash.
Right,
Good. Okay.
but yeah, Monday or Tuesday is okay. I think
That's
that-
fine.
okay.
No, it just want to be able to have a handle on that information.
Yep.
And then just to build off on what Wendy's already said, again, from an educational standpoint, the county does have the website. Wendy is working on that, but obviously it comes down to the residents. And that's why we're looking to supervisors during town board meetings and things of that nature, as well as the town clerks, because again, they're the one-on-one, the face-to-face, rather than at the transfer station, because usually folks want to come in and do their business and leave. It's going to be a push and it's going to be a process, but we're really looking for that assistance at a town board level to help educate the public as well.
Yeah, that's
Again,
No, we really should give a pamphlet when we sell the recycling permit.
That's
We should give
Yeah,
a
we're
sheet
working
with
on
it.
it. Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
what we talked about, that we would do an educational piece to encourage people to recycle,
Mhm.
but if you're gonna do it, that's even better.
Yeah, because that way, again, if someone's going to the town clerk and they're picking up a permit, that they are handed something. When you didn't have-
Because when there's a single attendant, like at Chatham, you'll have like 7 cars backed up
Yeah.
and they're all hucking it at once into the dumpster and onto the recycling dumpster. So it's
Right.
hard for an attendant to be
Yes.
completely
The
diligent.
bottle bill tax, because that also might make a difference. If the bottle bill went up to 10 cents, people might be less likely to put it in the recycling.
I don't believe that bill has passed. I know that was
Yes.
part of the EPR regulations that they were also
Right.
trying to pass as well. They kind of bundled that all together. It wasn't separate, so I don't know if,
I'll follow up and let you know.
yeah,
It may pass before the end of session, but I'm really
I know
not
the
taking
session still
some.
has a few weeks left too, so, yeah.
So Wendy, when are you gonna have this list up?
So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. We're in the middle of May right now. And we are working diligently on it. I just put in a few extra hours last night on it. It's just really time consuming. And I'm also very well aware that we do have people that will take this information and tear it apart. And then,
Really?
so I just, before we launch the page, I just want to make sure that it's as error-free as possible. So it is going to take me a little bit of
Oh, fine,
time.
I'm just saying, so
Yeah.
I need to get it to the village of Philmont so they can hand it out.
So Village of Philmont's a whole nother, that's a
Well,
whole nother thing. I've already sent the clerk of the village,
Okay.
our recycling protocol list. I actually have
That's what I
just a
want.
list of what we take. Because I did see their recycling when I came in the last time I happened to be in the building. So I sent it to her and just asked if there was a way for her to hand that out to the residents.
Okay.
And she
That's what I
was
was looking
on
for.
board with
That's fine.
that.
took care of the problem.
Yep, I got the Village with Wilmot, yes.
I just thought like an educational video, if
Okay,
you, like, if that people can click on and you can share it at town meetings and like, I know Brenda does newsletters out to her staff, if you click on it. I mean, you could also incorporate kids.
Yeah.
In the video, like, it'd be kind of cute. This is what you can do,
Sure.
And even a placard that you could fit on that dumpster, right as people walk up with the numbers, you know what I mean? The two
Yeah.
flags, just right in front of them. 'Cause
I know,
it may
it's,
make some people think.
I don't mean to be, I hear what
People
you're
don't
saying,
read.
it's just people, it's pictures. I think if
But
I
when we
had
had,
pictures.
when we
it
had
would
work
be-
going on at the transfer station and Tony brought up big lighted signboards, people still didn't read them,
Yeah,
right? They drove
I
right
mean,
on by,
people don't read.
you know?
It's-
So-
Our signs are never clear enough. Our signs just don't ever have enough information. There's always the, well, what about this? So it's hard to, I'm all for putting a sign up. I just don't know how effective that is, and
Understood.
unfortunately. I mean, as short of, like us standing there and educating the public for the next 3 months, there's just a few of us and there's 7, 8 stations, so we can't be everywhere all the time.
Put a TV screen up and text message. Everybody there.
Right. All right.
Oh, then it's. we don't
Anything
need to
else
look
from
at-
Wendy,
no,
or,
You guys saw my monthly report, so we're good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks again for the hazardous waste day.
Next up, we have facilities.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Good evening.
Good. Good evening, you too.
Watch out, Brian. She's nice to you. Be careful.
She's my friend.
No, that's your downfall. We know it.
Yeah. I'll put on this, like, since it's
We're on
winter,
live, too, so.
the mowing has begun, so I don't have that in the winter time, so, yeah, 325, painted a couple offices, moved desks around, cabinets everywhere, and, a lot of records movement. 401, we worked on the mail room here. We had a issue with the pipe leaking and it damaged the floor, so decided that'd be a good time to really, put some paint, kind of make the room a little nicer. Let's see, courthouse, replacing some trim on the garage. Public safety, like we clean and prep the cooling towers at both the public safety building and 560. Let's see here, highway ran a data line, repair a window, so normal maintenance as we go along. So at the airport, placed 2 LED runway fixtures, building some of the potholes in the parking lot. And nothing really major, just assisting with the Colette at DSS, when we can, with that installation. Got a resolution to present here. So we're just seeking authorization to purchase and replace the card access system throughout the buildings in the county. Whereas due to the cost of repairs of obsolete technology, we're asking to replace with an up-to-date and more user-friendly system at a cost of $86,994 to be paid with ARPA funds.
Move it. Got a motion? Second, all in favor? Opposed?
This also, I spoke with the vendor, and it comes with a 1-year warranty.
So we're all gonna get
Yeah,
new-
on equipment, that's what they asked the last
we're
time.
gonna get new
so.
fobs too?
No, the fob, everything stays the same. The only thing they're replacing is the, like the control box. So we can
Okay.
keep the power supplies, your fobs, everything stays the same. This also gives us an opportunity to like enhance security if we ever wanted to go that route. You can,
Change
they
access.
they deleted before this number was a little bit higher. They had equipment in there to actually we could,
even though we make our own ID tags, that you can make them with the actual chip in it so that, you know, the ID card could be also your fob, so to speak. So this way, you know, so I mean, there's enhanced features on this, and, you know, from what we saw in the presentation, it looked a lot easier to
Program and.
to work as
Lots of
she
doors.
Yeah,
knows,
yeah.
yeah.
That's the 5 minutes on this video.
Yes.
I'll be all right. But it's, and there's more staff that knows this system. What we have was just an old, you know, I mean, it's still, you can still buy it but let people work on it. And like I said, they only had one guy that really kind of knew, and he was,
You didn't know.
yeah. So they're more well-versed in this program. So that's why, like I said, when it's broken down per building, and also, like the fob system we were running into with our fobs, with the way it's set up, where we'd have to be real careful how we ordered those fobs, because sometimes they wouldn't be compatible. So this gives us, like, I think an extra like 70 spots without upgrading anything. Before, if I, like, some buildings are maxed out, we'd have to add more panels, more power supplies. This one, it comes like, they have like 7 extra ports available in every building. So that's what they built into it. So I think we can go up to like 128 readers. So,
So when 11 Warren opens.
Yep.
Whatever offices that are being relocated to 11 Warren can reuse their fobs in that.
oh yeah, yes, yep. Yeah, see, like currently right now, the reason why we got put into this, there's the the courthouse and the jail, public safety building. We can't program anything new. I can't even get anywhere in the jail. The courthouse, but anyone new, we can't do anything with. And I had estimates it was gonna cost about $20,000 to fix the problem, where we can, you know, move ahead and get something a lot better for, I know it's a lot more money, but it's not that bad, you know, like less than 20%. So, but, that's why we went along with it.
So I had a 610 on that list.
No, we never added that. So anything new would be, you know, factored in the projects, you know, I would think. So.
All right, how long is that gonna take to get that equipment and start? Change it
Once I get the approval, I think it'll turn very quickly, you know.
Okay.
So I spoke with them just
I didn't know
before
it was
the
a long
meeting.
lead time getting it like
No,
a new
no.
truck or something.
He said that's something, that's something they install regularly, so it should be
Okay.
fairly quick, so.
All right. Up next and last, we have engineering. If you can talk as fast as Dean Knox, we'll all get out of here for dinner then.
I'll try to.
No pressure or anything.
So Valley View Bridge, contractors completed the installation of the county-owned temporary bridge. So that diversion is in place. We're also utilizing the traffic signals that the county had purchased last year. That works very well.
Great.
Contractors now removing the bridge structure itself. So part of that, unfortunately, they have to deal with lead paint, so they have to scrape any loose materials off before they start moving it. But as of yesterday afternoon, they removed 1/4 of the entire bridge structure so far, as far as the superstructure. So that is moving along. Stall Bridge, contractor will be mobilizing on May 28th, and he'll also start the preparation of the superstructure for demolition, again, removing any lead paint material that's loose. And the demolition of the superstructure is scheduled for June 17th. The steel has been ordered. Shop drawings have all been approved. He's estimating that the steel will arrive on site the first week of August. And they'll start erecting that. In the meantime, they'll be working on some of the abutments and prepping the area after the superstructure is removed. In addition to that, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation had approved the structured documentation that we had to submit as part of removing the bridge and demoing it. So we'll be providing a copy of that information to the historians for both the county as well as the town of Claremont and the town of Livingston, so that they'll have it electronically for their files. Mill Hill Road, surveyors are scheduled to begin the right-of-way and topography work starting May 20th. I'm also in discussions with the manufacturer of the Maybe Bridge, which is the temporary bridge that the county has that we're currently using on Valley View, to see what we'll need to do to adapt that bridge to make it a longer span. Currently it's 72 feet or 74 feet, my apologies. But with Mill Hill, we'll need to extend that to 100 feet in length, just based on the creek that's there as far as the road jam. So again, it's a modular unit, so.
I remember years ago, we talked about that.
Yeah, so it's a modular unit. It's just the extent of what needs to be done and whether we can rent the additional modules, or whether we'll need to purchase it. So I'll keep the committee appraised of that. Rossman Road Bridge, the engineering department, we've received qualification packages from consulting firms and we're in the process of reviewing those. So I'll have a resolution next month for the engineering. My apologies, there's an additional resolution. Board had passed a resolution in the past allowing the chairman to sign the documentation associated with the financing and the IPP plan and the project management plan. However, now the DOT adds an additional step where we need to do yet another financial agreement. So there's a resolution for that. So now it's a two-step process where it used to be a one-step process. Sorry. Stuyvesant Falls, project submittal packages have been submitted to New York State DOT. The draft design report and justification are both underway. As part of that, the consultant has already completed their hydraulic analysis, so there's no modifications that need to be done as far as expanding the span for hydraulics. We're in good shape there. And they're currently working on preliminary estimates associated with the draft report. They're also looking at options. So we're looking to see, are there architectural elements that we could add to the structure? Again, recognizing that the existing structure is historic. If we do remove it, can we utilize some architectural items to try to recreate some aspects of the truss bridge? So that's one of the options that we're looking as well as they prepare their estimates. Other engineering activities, the 911 center we had gone over. DSS contractor he's in the process of completing the second floor units. That should be completed by the end of May. Again, that is going very well at this time. And as you know, and as was mentioned, a solar array has been placed into service and is operational, and you can track the production on the Climate Smart website. 11 Warren Street, been working with the design team. They've submitted schematic floor plans. To the point, based on the comments that I've incorporated into that, where it's ready to go to the Space Utilization Committee for review as far as floor plans, the departments going into that space as well. So that meeting has been set for May 22nd at 3:30. I'll have the architects and design team here that will be making that presentation to the committee. I'll also be providing the committee copies of some of the minutes that had taken place during that process, as well as some of the questionnaire and surveys that were done early on in the process. I think I provided copies of that to them in the past, but I'll provide additional copies at that.
And Kelly, you did extend that to the department heads, did you? We talked about that a little bit. Did you invite the department heads in question?
I believe I did.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be good for them to hear it at the same time. So we can get feedback from them. Airport conducted the kickoff meeting with the project consultants for the FBO. That's for the new modifications or renovations to the main terminal building at the airport. Just keeping in mind that that was a grant that the county had obtained from New York State DOT in the amount of $2.38 million. So we're starting that project off. Solid waste, the highway, solid waste and facilities departments are all working together to try to finish up that project. We are on the home stretch. We're just moving some final utilities that had to be dealt with, and it's expected that the paving will be completed within the next 2 weeks. Also just working with the USDA regarding their lease agreement. Again, this is a new lease that has to be drawn up, and they do want improvements to the building, not just maintenance for minor items such as painting and carpeting, but they actually are looking to modify the interior as well, provide them a secure lobby area, which the building doesn't have or their space doesn't have. So working with them so that way we can obtain what that floor plan will look like, so we can then obtain quotes for the work and incorporate that cost into the lease. So we'll continue to work with them on that. Most of that's coming actually from the federal level, not the local.
Yeah, right.
No, I wasn't saying anything about.
No, just to be
No.
clear, because I
Local
met with the local, no, the local folks have been great. They're like, we're fine.
Fine.
But it's the federal folks. They also want to incorporate, just a note as well. USDA is, their entire fleet apparently is going towards EV. So we are going to be required to provide for the ability of EV chargers. So we do have space within the panels as far as our electrical system. And then we'll be working with them as far as those interconnects, but they are going all EV as far as their fleet.
I met with the DOT engineers a few weeks ago. They said they won't buy us dump trucks, but they'll buy us EVs.
One resolution, again, this is regarding Rossman Road, and it's authorizing the chairman to execute all necessary documents, allowing them to move forward.
Motion a second, all in favor? One amendment to this, though, on the front request, it does say that the Rossman Bridge is in the town of Stuyvesant.
Oh, my apologies.
That shouldn't be, but it does say it in the contract that you have, it says Stockport. but-
Yeah, okay, thank you.
That's it?
That was it. I took enough time early on.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, you can't justify it, not when it comes into $1,000 a square foot.
I think, my concern is not that there was 10 contractors picked up and 2 came in. I don't know what happened, but something. I think some of it was the time of year, Yeah. Everything's expensive. Well. Any other questions for Ray while he's here? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor.
Good evening, everybody. County government meeting come to order, please. First up on the agenda is Bill and Mara.
So we are looking to enter into a 2-year contract with enhanced voting. As you can see, we're going to use this for our election night results. It will take early voting and early vote by mail and absentee and election night, put them all together for us. Much smoother, a lot less time, and give us the reports that we want and the reports that others are asking us for.
How much? How much?
Well, it's 20, I didn't put that on there.
Says the monthly lease cost of $81.98.
$28,000 for 2 years. It will also be paid for with our tier grant.
I'd move it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Carry.
Thank you very much.
That's it. You ladies.
No, we didn't need to do that.
Okay.
Right, Kelly?
Next
Yeah.
up, civil service, Dawn.
Hello, so civil service has 2 items today to review. The first one is we have a vacancy due to resignation for our full-time personal assistant, and we'd like to hire from our list that we have.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Opposed?
you.
Carry.
And then the second one, because of the first one, the candidate selected cannot start until the fall. So we would like to hire someone just temporarily in a clerk typist role to help us with the day-to-day operations of the office. Even though it's summer, we don't really slow down that much.
I'll move it. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very
Any
much.
questions?
Appreciate that. Oh,
You
any
have somebody to
questions?
fill that position.
I'm so
Do
sorry.
you have somebody to fill that
We
position?
do, it's, because it's temporary.
Temporary.
We don't have to use a list. We
Okay.
can just fill it and let them go when they're done. They know when they'll start and when they'll finish.
Okay.
Okay?
Very good.
I'm sorry, anyone else?
Along with that goes, it's really.
Oh, okay. I'll wait though.
But it's appointing a member to the Civil Service Commission, reappointing Elena Mosley.
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Veteran, Harry, that's you, Sarge.
We have a resolution, right? That went before point one yesterday. It's replacing the clerk that I had to resign
I'll move it.
part-time. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. You, me.
I turn my phone down.
And it's, most of you probably know I'm retiring.
No,
June 30th.
can't.
But I'm not.
You
retiring.
want to, but you don't know what
I'm not retiring from the veterans community though. The Lieutenant Governor's recommended I take a position at Oneonta State University for veterans to go to school there. So I'm pending an interview now.
And is that closer to someone we know and love?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Wait a minute, did you just say you're retiring and now you're gonna go to? How's that work?
Retiring from this
From
position.
this job?
Right. But my recommendation to fill my position is Rachel, who's been with us for 17 months. She's met all the criteria. They have to memorize the law manual and be certified by Washington. And she has that qualifications.
Are you
I'm
ready?
sure she's very qualified, but I think we need to advertise and at least do a process, just like we do with any other department head. So,
Okay, but it's mandatory that that whoever takes that position be a veteran.
Yep.
And the same thing with the deputy. And this young lady is a veteran and she's long been volunteering with us. And she too took the exams and has a letter coming from Washington.
She's too young to be a veteran.
No, she's a veteran.
What's your name?
Anally.
Hey,
So at least I'm prepared and they're prepared.
we appreciate your input, like I said, but any department head, as you were, I mean, we would want to do a process.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. Update on activities. Since the last time we met, we've had about 45 cases. Rachel just got 100% this past week on a veteran who was 30 years old. And that's a family, right?
Married with two young kids.
So that was one big success we had. Yesterday, I got a veteran 100% that I've been working with for 7 years fighting the VA. We finally got it. And this morning, he and his wife sent me flowers. I've never got flowers in my life. So. One of the things that's important on the continuity is the VA has now decided they're going to allow Agent Orange exposure cases for 17 posts in the United States, including Fort Trump, that the military and Dow Chemical sprayed with Agent Orange. And we're gonna have to go back and look at every case we have. The widows program under Dwyer, we now have 46 widows that run the food pantry out there. The food pantry is just fantastic. We got more, the mayor came to visit me and I told the mayor we have more food and clothes than Walmart has. But at the same time, we have veterans come in almost every day needing food or needing something, and we're prepared to do that. We've added the widows as part of our Honor a Vet program, and they present something to the family each month at the Honor a Vet program. And everybody in orange.
Could you just explain, when you said 17 locations? Is that where people were trained to use Agent Orange?
Yeah, what happens, before it was only Vietnam.
Right,
Then under the PAC Act, they added Thailand, Laos, Cambodia.
right.
Now they're saying, they're admitting that they sprayed Agent Orange, either sprayed it or stored it at 17 locations in the United States.
Okay.
What about Panama?
Panama, I'm still fighting because your cousin, we've been fighting that one for what, 3 years now? Yeah. So the new list will be coming out and it's going to really increase the workload.
And I've had a couple of veterans ask about, the water situation. Is
You
it,
can't presume.
yes, do we know anything about what's happening?
We had 52 cases that we presented, and we have a local lawyer that's handling those. And not one of them's been settled yet. And all of a sudden, the Navy wants to buy them off. And that's a big war that's going on between the attorneys and veterans. We continue to put in comp cases because they can file the law, be part of the lawsuit and still do compensation to the VA. And we have several of those cases that we've already gotten compensation for. But if there's anybody exposed to the bad water, have them call us.
I guess we have a couple of people in Canaan whose father or mother was on base and they were born there and grew up there.
They can file a claim.
Okay.
Yeah. We've had one veteran die from it.
Do we know what the toxin is yet?
Pardon me?
Do we know what the toxin is, the poison?
All kinds of stuff.
Okay. Thank you. I'll have it done.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you,
Do you have
Sergeant
anything
Major.
to say?
When's your last day?
June 30th.
Well, thank you for everything you've done up to this date, buddy. We appreciate it. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. For
And I
your
won't
service.
abandon the county. Veterans won't allow me.
They'll be calling you. Dave.
Oh, they're already calling.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How long does it take to publicize this job?
Well, we can do that probably starting tomorrow and, give a sufficient number of time or amount of time to get resumes in and then special interviews. And
Was that a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
it's probably, I would say, the process, a month to a month and a half.
We're under the nose.
I'll be gone.
Don't forget the horses. They'll miss you too.
Pardon me?
The horses will miss
Oh, yes,
you.
Sergeant Weir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is real property. Not saying anything.
I got a list. I couldn't come last month, so.
So you doubled up, huh?
I doubled up. I got my notes here. So I did bring our new deputy director, Mark Taylor, with me today most of you probably know him, but I wanted to introduce him to this committee. He comes
We
to
can pick on
us.
him instead of you.
Yeah.
Sounds much fun though.
Really. He comes to us from Concord Appraisals, and he had 10 plus years there. He also has his real estate appraiser assistance license and over or just about nearly 20,000 hours of appraisal work. So he's got a lot to learn about the assessment part of it and mass appraisal and all that. And he's already signed up and taking classes that are required for basic certification for assessor. The first one he's already started is data collection, and then he'll be taking several more throughout the year to get familiar with the entire process. He attended the Board of Assessment Review training last week, and he's been learning the Munis program, the Kronos program. We went over village taxes, and tentative assessment roles. The previous deputy director, as you know, is Judy Bender. Very big shoes to fill, but we did split her previous duties into the RPS, into somebody that does primarily the RPS stuff, and then somebody that can learn what I do, so that when I'm not there, the office will will continue on. And, so that's what Mark has been learning, a lot of that. So, welcome, Mark. I think have you been here a month,
Yeah,
right?
that's my mom.
Did you want to add anything? or-
No, I don't think so. We pretty much covered everything and well, pretty much everybody here knows me. So.
Except usual, she covers all.
Quickly, because I have a lot of to say. Okay, so an update on the 2024 revaluation projects. Stockport, Claremont, Canaan, New Lebanon, all completed revals this year. And they all were successful in getting 100% equalization rates. Canaan and New Lebanon did it on their own, and I applaud that assessor especially, just because she put a lot of time and effort into those projects. I also applaud Stockport, Claremont. The time that these assessors put into completing these projects is way above their part-time hours and part-time salaries, and they did a great job. So I appreciate all that they did. They had a lot of dedication to getting the projects to be successful.
And would you know what Hudson's equalization rate is?
This year Hudson.
Was that one of the ones that was published today? You said
Yeah, we just sent it out.
Yeah, all of the equalization rates are there. I mean, most of them dropped, 5 to 10% even. We had significant drops. Our median sales price in Columbia County was 430 some odd thousand this year. It exceeded Dutchess County. This is the first time, I don't know how long, we're above Dutchess County in the sales price.
Congressman Molinaro, actually, his representative mentioned that in the legislative breakfast last week, that they were concerned that number was so high.
So, I mean, in 3 years, there's been close to 40% increase in the trends. So, but I'd also, as I like to do, and just take a moment to thank the real property staff for the work that they do on these projects. Canaan, New Lebanon, like I said, did it on their own. But the other projects, they, from data collection to entering the data in our office, it's set up now where they can enter the data in the RPS system from our office, but log into the assessor's computer and update the data and the photos and everything right, from our office, but onto their computer through amazing technology.
May I just take exception
I
to
love
that?
it.
You said that Canaan and New Lebanon did it on our own. Our assessors did lead those efforts, but we ran into some really heavy lifting with New York State. There were at least 3 conference calls with them, and you were invaluable in solving those problems. I mean, they dropped us, 10 points from what our reval was last year to this year with no explanation. They just took the points away.
Unfortunately.
We had the letter in front of us, and Suzette helped us regain that territory.
Yeah, and Kim did do a fabulous job.
Reversed like the initial.
They didn't reverse it, but somehow we sorted it. I don't know how we eventually sorted it.
Yeah. But
They don't have a paper trail.
And you're definitely at 100%.
But they took it away.
Yes.
One piece of paper to the next with no explanation.
Yes. Yeah, it was frustrating for sure.
So you don't have an idea about Hudson's?
Oh,
You avoided that question.
If you don't know, that's fine.
I don't know. Did you look it up
I was
online?
trying to.
I just looked
but-
it wasn't on that
I
list.
looked it up online.
Yeah.
On the state website,
Yeah.
it has 2023 at 78%. And then I,
71?
78, it says.
Yeah, but what's the
2024, it just says 0, so I
Oh, it's
assumed-
on, it's there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay, the page I'm on just says 0.
yeah.
We're gonna need a revamp.
So it might be 68 to 71% somewhere around there, I'm guessing. But Mark
It drops a
might
lot
be able
quicker.
to- Well, yeah, on the state site.
How low do you want to go before you super eval, you think?
I mean, you don't, it's not about the equalization rate. It's
Okay.
about equity and having everyone assess in the same manner and fairly. That's what it's about. You can do that at 80%. You can do that at 100%. You can do that at 50%.
But you can only do it with a reval.
You can only redivide it.
It's way too much work for an assessor.
Yeah,
Especially
yes. I
part-time.
mean, you have to go through the entire process, no matter what level you're gonna assess it. If you're saying you're gonna assess everyone at 70%, you've got to go through the entire process. Yeah.
And is another way to answer Rick's question. I think you told us that the state recommends every 3 to 5 years. If you're
Four to,
not.
yeah,
Right.
4 to 5 years. Yeah. Yeah. And every town in Columbia County, except for the town of Livingston, has conducted full reassessments since 2018, I believe. It might be a little bit earlier with COVID, but every town has. Now, with that being mentioned, Livingston, we're doing a data collection project there. So any new data that's discovered when the data collectors go out, the assessor is putting that data on the roll, and depending on how significant of a change that data is, he's applying a new value at the level of assessment, which I think is somewhere around 50%.
So I couldn't find out the state, but this
Oh,
is
yes.
what, Livingston was low.
Yeah, 71%.
Hudson.
Yeah, and Livingston is, I just said, Livingston, I want to say is like 53,
50 something, yeah.
somewhere around there.
But here's something that we were doing, which we thought was a good thing, but then the state told us was not a good thing, is that we were doing interim data collection and adjustments, so that we would do a third of the town or a quarter of the town every 3-4 years. And they said they preferred that we not do that. They prefer to do it all at one time.
And the trending last year.
Right, because it starts to look like
this year.
Welcome Stranger or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. 51, yeah, Livingston's at 51 this year, but, which would have been about what Stockport was at if they had.
Yeah, but we tried for 4 years.
And the state,
But you know-
if you go below a certain number.
No,
then
no,
It's just
No,
harder to
no.
explain to your residents what's going
it's
on.
easier to explain
Also, we
everything
double
when
the
the market value and the assessed value are 100% the same. It definitely is. But, back to the real property staff, tax map revisions, phone calls, appointment scheduling, and I appreciate everything that they do and the work that they do on a daily basis. So I think you've heard it before from me, but I just want to make sure. So with the Livingston project, approximately a third of the parcels got data collected. We stopped right around March 1st because that's taxable status date. So the assessor, needed time to put values if he was going to put any values on those changes and then apply it to this year's tentative roll. So we're going to be starting up again in mid-June so that we're going to be working on the 2025 assessment roll with the data changes.
So
So that will go right through till we're done.
Is that legal to go like that, where you divide a town up in like in the third? And so, I mean, couldn't they
Well,
get
just for
upset
the
saying, well,
data-
you're doing
For
me,
the
but you're
data
not doing them?
collection, yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, they're still gonna be assessed at that
51%, okay.
Yes, that's what
They're not changing the third. That's what I'm
Correct.
asking.
And, they have found some houses. They have found some garage,
Oh, yeah.
pools, typical sheds, things like that weren't on the roll. And, that value adds and helps everybody else out, in the municipality as well, so. So that's good. Austerlitz and Hillsdale, I don't know if you recall, but last year, the Board of Supervisors, I came to this committee and then we had a resolution with the Board of Supervisors to work with them on 2026 projects. And we then had a change to a new supervisor in Hillsdale and, we had some concern with the Austerlitz supervisor. So I met with them, and right around that same time that I met with them, the assessor had announced that she's going to be retiring. So, it's the same assessor for both municipalities, and she's been doing it 17 to 18 years. She's been wonderful, done a great job. But they had to look for a new assessor, and with a new assessor coming in, it's hard to commit to a project like that. So that's, I don't want to say totally off, but it's definitely on hold for right now, and I have no idea when that will start up. So once the Livingston data collection is done, then, we'll, we're at a standstill with data collection. So, but the data collection that's remaining there will take them quite some time to finish. 2024 tentative rolls. If you haven't seen yours, it's online. The the PDFs are there. All the data is there. Board of Assessment Review training, like I mentioned, was last week. We had it in the board chambers. It might have smelled like pizza the next day when you had your supervisor meeting. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, there were probably around 20 people or so that got trained, and your town clerks have been notified. So the new volunteer firefighter exemption, Mark's been working on going through reports that, since we had the tentative roll, he's been going through reports to make sure that we have the local laws and the resolutions on file from each municipality, fire district, and school district that is having the exemption apply towards those specific taxes. So there's roughly around 267 or so volunteer firefighters that applied for the exemption and were granted the exemption this year on the tentative rolls countywide. And I think when we did our impact analysis, it was probably around 500. So it's on the low side this year. There might be more that will sign up, with more notification next year. So,
Brenda had a question.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a kerfuffle in our fire company recently over this exemption, and it had to do with, yes, it had to do with I think my information and their information was that the fire company decided who was eligible for this exemption in terms of hours worked or certifications or something like that. But that they had learned subsequently that it was a broader pool and that everyone had to be available. And they were upset about that. Can you shed any light?
Everyone had to be available.
All the firefighters were eligible. Yes.
Now they have to be actively serving.
Okay.
And the, I believe the governing body.
Is that definition maybe broader than what
Well,
What
most real property tax law is broad, and this law needs clarification.
Okay.
There have been questions that have come up recently as we've gone through everything. And unfortunately, it needs clarification in a lot of different, but I would say, no, I mean, the chief is the one that's signing off on whether they're actively, they're active.
Well, they provided the list to the assessor.
Yeah.
And I think in that exchange, there was some difference of opinion.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm trying to understand.
But everybody had to apply to the assessor to get it.
Yeah.
So
Like,
if they didn't apply.
just for instance, I mean, it's a volunteer firefighter exemption, so auxiliary members wouldn't be
Right.
eligible. But they have to have at least 2 years of active service. So whatever the fire department determines is active service, and I know Mark was having a conversation and he said, like, Greenport, the fire police are actively serving. They may not be going in to fight the fire inside.
I guess then my question would be, was it up to each fire company to determine what was active service for their company?
I believe so.
Well, that's pretty much
'Cause that
already
could be very-
predetermined by the fire, because there are inactive and active members.
No, but
so-
like the fire police, my fire chief might not have considered the fire police as active service. He may have considered firefighters who fight fires as active
Yeah.
service. So I'm just wondering if there's any, I'll do this offline. I won't take.
Reach out to me and then I'll see what that
Because it wasn't that people were being left out, it was that more people were being included that they didn't feel were really in active service.
Right, but it's the fire chief that provided the list to the
Okay.
assessor, right?
I'll follow up with you after.
Yeah, follow up. So all of the municipalities adopted the fire exemption. The only one that was a little bit late was Hudson. So theirs won't apply to the January 2025 bill, but it will apply to January 2026. If a volunteer firefighter applied for the exemption with the assessor prior to March 1st, they'll still get it for school taxes and county taxes. They just won't get it for city taxes this year. But thank you for your assistance with moving that forward. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
And there's about, in the schools that didn't adopt it, New Lebanon, Germantown. And
New Lebanon is facing an 11% budget increase. I think they've got it down to 8%, but they just couldn't find the pennies.
Okay. 11 fire departments adopted a resolution, and there may be a couple others that Mark's been reaching out to make sure we have copies of everything. But like I said, there have been a number of questions that have come up since the tenor rolls have been filed, and we're trying to get some answers. Obviously, we know the intent of the law is to, basically give this exemption to volunteers, but also to try to get more volunteer members. So, and with the senior exemption, all towns except the city of Hudson, although Hudson adopted for, right, again, it'll be for 2026, but not for the January 2025, but adopted the increased income levels. So Hudson will be 2026. Germantown did not increase their income levels as of yet, as far as I'm aware. And then the schools were New Lebanon and Germantown School did not increase those either. So I think that's
A quick question, back to the fire exemption. So you're saying it's active firefighters that get the exemption?
at least 2 years.
At
of
least 2 years. So
active
how about if
service.
they've retired?
So the
Still living in
20
town, do they
year-
still, after that, they still get it
The
too?
20+ year member, that's one of the ones that we are looking into a little bit more. But I believe if they live within Columbia County, but not necessarily in the town that they served in, but they moved to another town within Columbia County, I believe they're entitled to that
The law
exemption.
just kind of says if they've been in 20 years, they get it. So,
Yeah.
right.
But there are some local laws that were adopted, I think, that are more town specific. But if you, I feel if you read the real property tax law, it says county, it specifically says county.
Okay.
So we're looking more into that.
Thank you,
Right, were you
Suzette.
about to say something
Anybody got any
else?
questions for Suzette? Any more questions for Suzette?
I'll talk all night.
No. We only
have
got,
all night.
we only got.
We got a meeting at
We gotta keep moving, Suzette. Thank you.
Okay.
Sweet, thank you, Bill.
Welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Next up is, Karen O'Brien, MIS. Karen?
Tough act to follow.
Oh, yeah.
Don't try.
MIS is looking for authorization to accept a grant from the Department of Homeland Security in
Move
the
it.
amount of 49,000.
Second it.
500.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Those are the
Sure.
ones I like, Karen.
I always like money
Yeah.
coming in. Anything to grant, they pick right up.
Yeah. We'll spend it wisely. Authorization to adopt the camera system policy.
Move it.
Actually, I want to offer an amendment. So I appreciate all the work that you and your team have put in. There's like a clause in the thing that says that there's limited control around how the DA and the sheriff would operate under the policy.
But it's left really vague. And so I just drew up like an alternate thing that's like a little more specific, which I can pass around. I'll take out and pass it. It's just like the last, as you get the sheet, it's the last number 2. It's basically just saying that the sheriff and the DA would make their own policy before using the facial recognition system.
What page?
I see
what the old one says. So
The other
how,
ones, I think it's page 5, maybe.
I wanted to ask, the version that's presented before us has the DA and the sheriff signed off on that as far as.
I believe they were okay with this version. They did not want to be included in this version because, you know, if it's a law enforcement issue, they would need to have access
Right, yeah.
to the cameras. So
Which this does allow them that, right?
Yeah,
And the
yes.
proposed.
but how does this language change from the original language that you distributed? The language in this draft, not your draft. Were there changes made by the sheriff or the DA that altered
Yeah, we had,
provisions in your policy? I'm not seeing
Right.
things I thought I saw before.
we had so we had an earlier draft that sort of laid out how someone would decide. So you have this facial recognition technology, which has the potential for overreach in terms of you can track people. That can be potentially kind of invasive. It's more similar to something like a tapping someone's phone and getting their geolocation than it is a classic surveillance technique. So I had some draft language about like how someone would decide when to track somebody, how would you decide to turn it off, and then who would make those determinations. The DA and the sheriff basically said like, we want to figure that out on our own. And so the version on the screen just says, this doesn't apply to the DA and the sheriff. And so then I added just like a clause that's like, it doesn't apply to the DA and the sheriff, but we are expecting the DA and the sheriff to develop their own policies that would protect privacy, that would limit facial recognition to matters of public safety, and then have some way of, if you're turning on facial recognition, you have some way of turning it off. And in my mind, that's like the bare minimum, which talking to the sheriff and the DA, they imply that they would create a policy that does those things. So in my mind, this gives me the comfort that at least it's coming. It still gives the sheriff and the DA a lot of autonomy to figure out how it's coming. So I think this sort of, for me, this is like a bare minimum standard that I would want to have.
And have you run these past the DA and the sheriff? I just spoke to the DA this afternoon and he said he still had concerns, hadn't heard anybody respond to his concerns, so.
I mean, I had phone conversations with the DA and the sheriff, and like conceptually, it seemed like that they agreed, but they hadn't like literally seen this exact text and said yes or no. Although they were on an email thread where I proposed it, and they just didn't reply to it. So I'm hesitant to speak for what they would say about it.
Well, then I think we could either vote to approve the one that's before us that they have approved, or we could, pause and send it back to them for more consideration.
I think we could vote on this and then ask them to develop their policies in relation to the facial recognition and the, user access.
Which is what he has in here, prior to deploy this point that.
Well, they may or may or not disagree with that. So.
Right, but I, with all respect, I would not be comfortable with that either. I think that the caveat to purchasing these cameras was that we had this policy. And the policy has to be seen through the lens not only of law and order, but also protecting vulnerable populations. And I really do think that we have to, at a minimum, hold these two officials to a policy from their department. And I think it needs to be in writing. I don't think it can be institutional memory. I think it needs, so I would.
We have a motion.
We have a motion. I don't know if we have a second, but I would suggest, just following Ron's suggestion here, that we either pause this and give the DA and the sheriff time to respond to it.
How much more time they need? Did they see?
I don't know, but if we've got two different things. Ron is saying that he spoke to the DA and the DA hadn't
Just a
heard
few
from
hours
anybody.
ago,
And Michael is saying he sent something and he hadn't had a response to it. I don't know what the reality
Yeah,
is.
Well, you were involved with the meeting with the DA. They were comfortable with the fact that they were not have to follow this policy. And basically what this what the policy says is that if anybody other than the DA or the sheriff want information, they have to FOIL the information. The sheriff and the DA have access to the information if it's involving law enforcement or if a crime has been committed.
But again, I think that that's through their lens of law enforcement and that we have more than one population. We have law enforcement and we also have the other people that might inadvertently be affected by that. And I think as policymakers, we have to look at all the populations that might be affected by this.
And I think that can still happen.
I guess without the amendment, because it just says law enforcement, is that you put MIS in a situation where somebody anybody from the DA's office, and I guess anybody from the sheriff's department could say, I want access, I want full access, I'm gonna do surveillance on people. And we would just be like, sure, you guys can do whatever you want. There's no policy that determines when you would do it or when you wouldn't do it.
Or how you do it.
And we would have no guarantees of how it functions. There's like a lot of potential for overreach.
I think that's their job though. It's their task with law enforcement. So, if they need it, I mean, to me, if the sheriff or the DA needs it, then they get it. That's.
And I guess if they don't have a policy for how they would use a potentially invasive technology, that to me seems like a pretty big risk for overreach. There certainly are examples of municipalities using this kind of technology in ways that can violate people's civil rights, where and somebody goes to a protest and they decide to put every single person into the facial recognition tracker. It creates some legal liabilities as well as just.
But this all says we're not going to do it live. So I mean, this policy already says.
If we don't do the bare minimum, saying, well, we expect the DA and the sheriff to have a policy that regulates those things and protects privacy. Like if they don't even have a policy that guarantees it, to me it's too big a risk.
I think it's also, if they don't have a policy, what are they going to train to? They have to have a policy to train to, and that's the important thing before the cameras are implemented, that there's a policy to train to. And as much as I respect law enforcement, there have been cases of abuse, particularly with domestic violence, when law enforcement has accessed cameras or information associated that should have been confidential, but because another law enforcement member was the abuser or that information was shared or available. There needs to be a policy to train to and to hold law enforcement accountable. And I agree with you. We don't have to write it. They can write it. But it needs to be written and it needs to be, they need to train.
And we can pass this and they can still write that policy.
But it doesn't, I don't think it carries the same weight as Michael's amendment does.
We have a motion.
Okay.
So I'll second the motion. We'll see where it goes.
Well, can we pass a contingent on the agreement?
I think we're going to pass what's on the screen.
Right.
I don't,
Or
because
not,
they
yeah.
may have a different view.
Right. It would be nice to know what their view is. I mean,
Right.
it's the crapshoot right here.
I have a motion and a second. Need a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
2 noes.
No. 4 no's.
Okay.
So can we bring it back
They
next?
have a responsibility to come out with policy. We need to know what it is prior to doing anything. I think we live by policies and procedures. Why can't we ask for a thorough one for this?
Well, we did, but then Michael changed this at the last hour before and they're not aware of it. So that's my point. I'm comfortable with this because they had signed off on what's on the screen, but if they haven't seen Michael's version or approved it, then.
Okay, then why
can't
can't
change
we just hold off on this thing? I know there's been a vote already, but until they react on what they want to do. Table it.
That's what I suggested, that we table it, that motion was called and we voted on it.
Okay.
But we got a tie.
Doesn't mean we can't vote.
It's majority of the committee and we're missing a member.
Oh.
So it does not apply. The motion doesn't apply to pass it.
So then it doesn't pass. And-
So you got a motion to table it.
Motion? Yeah, I need a motion to table.
I made a motion to table it. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carry. Okay, table.
Thank you.
Thank you. Human resources, Michael.
Now, this is a policy.
Hello, everyone. All right. Yeah, I clarified that also. Okay, do you want to do the bottom ones? Oh, no, whatever you have. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, great. Okay, so these are Dawn Evans's. Certainly as the committee is used to, we're responsible for, the establishment standard workdays for employees, and reporting those to New York State local retirement system. So that is this resolution. For new titles.
Second. All in favor? Oh, carries.
Those are two positions in the budget. This is in reference to establishing standard workdays for elected and appointed officials that may have submitted and adjusted our record of activities in our way.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Oops. Okay, so this might be easier just to kind of just make one blanket statement about the whole thing, and then any questions we more than happy to answer whatever you have. Certainly the county as an entity that is responsible for compliance with regulations in regards to corporate compliance with Medicare and Medicaid monies that come into the county. So this pertains mainly to our Department of Human Services, which is our mental health department, as well as our Department of Health that has Medicaid billable function. And so corporate compliance is just this huge piece of ensuring that we are not only training staff, that we have administrative policies explaining what the federal requirements are for adherence to these regulations, but more importantly about understanding and training the people who are providing billing for the information, that we are educating our staff and our contractors who provide services and work for the county, that they are withheld to a certain standard when they're performing these functions, that it is mandatory for these individuals to act in a professional manner, that we have policies that are in place in order to ensure all of these things, and that if someone witnesses or sees or has knowledge of something that could potentially be in violation of federal and state law that involves these programs, that they have an anonymous and safe place to be able to report those claims, as well as to contact myself as county corporate compliance officer or speak to someone on our corporate compliance committee. So we have a committee that has met several times already, but certainly are going to be starting the training process. It is a 36-step program that I have started reviewing all of them rather than walking with 36 because I thought you guys would kind of boom me out of here. This is what has been gone through. No. I'm just gonna, I should have recorded it so next month when I come back with another 8, I can just say ditto. Okay. But what this comes down to, this is not reinventing the wheel. Okay. This is something that all healthcare, all entities, counties, you name it, anyone with any type of state and federal funding through Medicaid and Medicare is responsible for this function. So how this ties in also is if, say, the Office of the Medical General, the Inspector General came in and we were subject to an Omega audit, that falls underneath this. Disclosing, if we found out self-disclosure, someone billed for something and then found out at a later time that they weren't able to actually bill for that service. The legality of going back and negating that claim and paying money back that we could potentially have to pay back if it was something that we incorrectly billed for, not even fraudulently paid for, but incorrectly billed for. And then our whistleblower policy, again, to the fact that if people have knowledge of these things, that they can safely and not worry about retaliation and coming and reporting these types of things to a safe place. So I am County Corporate Compliance Officer effective January 1st of this year. So we serve on the committee as part of this process. There is an annual requirement to go through all of these policies, review all of them, put any revisions in, bring them to the Corporate Compliance Committee, have them approve them. So we will be meeting the week prior to your board meeting. So we'll be meeting on June 5th. So any final versions of anything would certainly, be sent out and all of that. But these are the initial policies that we have started with.
So what is the anonymous and safe place to report?
So we have a hotline that we contract with Bonadeo and I'm sure you hear Bonadeo through a lot of the financial programs. And it is really the most effective way to maintain a completely anonymous hotline for individuals to be able to. Well, I went to Bonadeo's boot camp, which was for new compliance officers coming in and getting familiar with the program. And it was kind of almost comical listening to some people saying that they're maintaining almost like a suggestion box. And it's down at the end of a hallway and you got to turn a corner and knock on a door 3 times and there's no camera and there's all this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, can't you just get a hotline like we have? Like, it makes a lot of sense. So there are specific, yeah, I don't know, we can certainly look into all of any type of alternate methods, any type of, which may be more effective for individuals without computers. So or telephones. So I'm more than happy to look into it. So, but it's a great way for those claims to be able to come into an anonymous person. And those are then farmed out to individuals, the county attorney's office, to Joseph Ambrose, who is in our largest Medicaid, of course, billing program as deputy administrator down in our mental health program, and myself. Then this way, if a claim was to ever come and someone was complaining about, say, myself, this way it goes to another source that they would be able to bring into the board of supervisors without my eyes. So these are the initial policy revisions and good stuff, the meat and potatoes.
I'd like to thank Michael for taking on this responsibility. I told her that it would be easy and
I actually went into the chairman's office and said, what did I ever do to you? What did I do to you? This looks quite large. It's a lot of fun. It really is. But it's very important. So.
We appreciate it.
No, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carry.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Alder. I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Next up is Patrice.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Okay. So my first resolution is, authorization to enter into an agreement with Repeat Business Systems. We have, for our printer copiers, for 2 machines in our office.
Move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
No, carry.
Okay. And the next item, is a topic for discussion. Supervisor Adams requested that this be included. It's a follow-up from the March meeting. It's information on the proposed Columbia County Climate Action Plan that the Climate Smart Communities Task Force has been working on. And the latest version of the proposal was included with your packet. Since that time, the grant for this climate action plan has been announced to the CFA portal, and the applications are due in July. And the match for the county, that the county will be eligible, is a 50-50 match. So the proposed project cost is $120,000. So the application to the state would be for DEC to fund $60,000 with a county match of $60,000, which would be $30,000 in cash and $30,000 in kind dollars. That is what the task force is proposing at this point. At the last meeting, we didn't know what the grant would include, but because of the income levels in the county, we were eligible for the 20% match, for the 50% match. So
the county's median income went up another $4,000, went up 81,000.
Yeah, the median household income. So I didn't include the resolution at the time because there wasn't any change in the proposal at the time of submission. But as I mentioned yesterday or the day before, the state launched the resolution, the grant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When did that come out? It came out yesterday or the day before?
The day before, I think. Yeah.
As Brenda and I had a conversation, I would like some time to review it prior to making any, because we are going to have to commit county dollars.
Yes.
So I would like to look at that.
And I brought up a few months ago my concern on the community action plan part of it. I'm not against trying to do a climate action plan on government operations, but trying to identify community businesses and residences, I think is a bit of an overstep, and I don't know what that would do. I know when we asked Tara before, she said we could still do the same plan and we don't have to do the community plan, you know, that's an extra step. And I don't know what part of the expense, and I'd like to analyze that a little bit. You know, what would it cost if we just stuck to government operations? Only because Tara did say that that was acceptable. That's my concern.
The breakout is, I don't think they explored that, but they certainly can look into that. And I would say it's probably like around 60% of this or thereabouts, 60-75%, breaking out the community versus the government operations. We separated the two because there's some information that's common to both types of plans. So
sure.
I think one of the things we also talked about though is they are two parallel processes. So if we divided the two and decided that we wanted to do the community piece later, it would be the full cost all over again.
Right.
And I think given the scarcity of staff resources, we only have a part-time person allocated to this, that it makes sense to recognize any efficiency we can with regard to the grants and the grant process. And the other kind of leading edge for this is that we know that I never get Tara's acronym right. Capital District Regional Planning.
Right, thank you.
We know that their funding is set to sunset at the end of 2025. So, and we also know that this, having a cap plan would make us eligible for funding that other communities would not be eligible for. So to be on the front end of those funding opportunities, I think is really important. I understand and respect your request to have time to read the grant application, but I do think it's important.
But I did understand from Tara, maybe I'm wrong, that if we did a climate action plan for government operations, that would still qualify us for additional funding.
Some funding, but maybe not all funding.
Maybe not all.
And maybe not give us the same advantage. So I think what.
And it may extend the whole time to you know.
Well, the other thing I would say is that I think that we don't want to overlook the community. I mean, if we're trying to have a sense of what the future will bring, I think we need to have the community piece to have the full picture. And again, remember, this is not a commitment. We're not committing any community to any kind of work. But what we're doing is providing the insights, the information, and the opportunity for funding that they wouldn't have otherwise. And if I've forgotten what the dollar amount is that we've brought back through the Climate Smart Committee. Tara told us in March, it's some gigantic number. And I think I mentioned to you earlier, Ron, that our town is lining up for an extra $100,000 in the next few weeks. So I think that if we know that funding is sunsetting in 2025, we want to bring as much of it back to Columbia County as we can.
I think we're doing a great job with it.
We are, but we should
be happy with what we're doing.
Well, I'm never happy with what we have, but it's bringing money back. So.
But we can disagree, that's okay.
So the only thing is we just have to look at the timeline, Pat, because we have to bring it to the committee next month.
And part of reviewing that RFP too is me reconciling the difference. And you saw the email when I said a state plan, a capital region plan, and now a county plan. You know, what is it, you know, what's the overlap? And if this, and I don't know this answer, but if this is covered in the capital region plan or the state plan, why are we going to expend money, $30,000 to $50,000? It's just a question, and it may answer that question by when I go through the information.
Can you answer that question?
Yeah.
Do you know the committee? Have you met them?
Sorry, I'm Dave Newman. I'm the chairman of the task force.
Yeah.
So the Capital District Regional Planning Commission is conducting a greenhouse gas inventory. And they did as part of the EPA grant that paid for that, they conducted a cursory action plan, which was not very far reaching for the region, which doesn't provide us much. And they had to do that just to comply with the EPA grant. The important information for us is the greenhouse gas inventory, which provides an update on a 2010 inventory of where we're at in terms of community-wide and government operations emissions. So that action plan that we're proposing here would allow us to create something that doesn't exist, that wouldn't exist, coming out of the CDRP effort, CDRPC.
Thank you. I'm glad someone else has.
So I don't know if that addresses the question directly, but the action plan is a series of, it goes sector by sector in the community and, you know, with regard to government operations and the community. So it looks at transportation, it looks at industry, it looks at buildings, looks at agriculture, looks at forests and land. And it takes the greenhouse gas inventory and says, these are the emissions that are coming out of those sectors based on the data we have. This is what it was in 2010. This is what it is now. And if the county wants to set a goal of saying we would like to be carbon neutral by X date or 80% reduction by X date or whatever the goal the county chooses to select, it has data to back that up and say, okay, well, we're this far along toward that goal. And then it breaks it down by sector. So the analysis of the action plan, which what we're hoping for, what part of the reason is it's expensive, is because we're hoping to do a lot of stakeholder outreach, you know, and really talk to people within all of those sectors. But it's a series of recommendations that are out there with potential funding sources, models, examples for each of those sectors that could get us to those goals. And it's completely voluntary. Now, the government operations component, you all can vote to say, we're going to do X, Y, Z, right? And you can take action to do that. The community aspect, there's no dictate. There's no way to dictate to the community or any business, you shall do this. And that's not what the plan would do. So I just want to be clear about that. There's no businesses or individual private sector entities that would be targeted and forced to do anything. And that would be explicit.
But how would you even capture their data? You know, I expect you're gonna pay somebody $120,000 to go do this study, and they're gonna reach out to all of our businesses and all of our residents and try and gather this information. But you're gonna get, what, 5 or 10% of the information that you need?
But they're not gathering information from businesses and individuals. The climate, the greenhouse gas inventory will assess using the methodologies they have, utility information, transportation information, publicly available information. They're not going out and collecting bills, utility bills from anyone. They're not collecting private information. That information that we'll use that's already happening through the greenhouse gas inventory, like the inventory that happened 10 years ago, would be the basis of our understanding of where we're at in terms of reducing emissions. The purpose of the action plan and the consultant and the outreach would not be going out and asking individual businesses for private information and not be asking them for their own information on how much how much electricity they're using.
You know, we've all experienced this in town and county government where we're trying to capture this information and it's very onerous. And to me, asking businesses to do that.
We're not. I'm sorry.
Too far, you know.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, that's right.
The difference is.
So what you think is that overall, you can go to the energy company and find out how much energy and where it's going in different businesses and then identify.
And that
it.
information's available. And we're not going to do that. That's already happening through the CDRPC effort.
Right.
That's not part of, the benefit is they're already doing this inventory. The difference with government is that you control the data and it's public data and you can task staff to gather that information or not. And that's what's been done with the greenhouse gas inventory that Don Meltz is conducting for government operations, because the information is available. The difference is the county government doesn't have access to go out and require people to provide information. We don't intend to do that. And that information will be done in an aggregate by the CDRPC, apart from whatever's decided here in the county.
So I hate to interrupt here. And
Yes.
I don't have to interrupt because we still got Bill Fisher's got to come up and we're running out of time here. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna, speaking to the community piece is, I know that we've done a little bit of we had the solar aggregate work that we sort of promoted. We did that heat pump discussion. And I know a lot of people are actually really excited when I tell them about the heat pump discussion. I think I could see some elements around where the community does want to figure out how to reduce their emissions, and there might be some use to putting together a plan that gives people a path forward. And maybe part of our plan is like, hey, here's how you can convert to heat pumps, and also we recognize the workforce development need to address like heat pump installation. Or here's the grants available for cover crops to reduce the carbon emissions for farming. So I could see some opportunities where people want a playbook for how to reduce things, and that a plan would sort of give people a guide for what are those easy to reach actions, and then what are the money available to do that. And I certainly know around the country there's a lot of municipalities that are sort of weighing in and helping the public engage on those actions. So I see some value in kind of creating a local playbook that's drawn from our residents.
Thank you.
Can this ultimately end up in a large dollar amount having to be in our annual budget for years to come?
Oh, yeah.
No, this plan is a one-off. The plan itself is a one-off.
Yeah, as the result.
But it will lead to the next step, you know.
What's the next step, right?
Well, the next step, I think, is it's a toolbox that will be provided to the county and also the towns in the county, in the city of Hudson, and then each of those towns can decide which of any of those actions they want to adopt. Is that correct?
That's right.
And that's like, you know, what is Lebanon brought back now? 300,000, what they brought back to their community.
The county is
It's
raised.
elected, they decide what to do.
I mean, it seems like it's a perfect segue to talk to our congressman or assembly person, something like that, to get the initial funding going. It's kind of a stretch. The last time we met, it was one of the concerns about where we're gonna find 30,000. Then we found out we didn't need it in this year's budget, but rather next year's budget.
Right.
Maybe we can get it. Is there a possibility that maybe we can get it from one of those individuals there, the
I don't
people
think
on
you can
the.
double dip, can you? I mean, it's a DEC grant. I don't know if you can get enough.
The county would have to provide it for us to apply for this year, and there'd have to be a commitment ahead of time, a resolution saying the county's prepared to do that if we do get the grant. So we wouldn't be able to apply for the grant this year. It's unclear whether there would be an opportunity next year.
I'm all for grants, I understand, but when you put together a package, most of the time the information ends up on a shelf somewhere because you can't afford the big package. And that's what I'm concerned about. It's a big package, so onerous that we're not gonna be able to afford it. And
It's not like we're preparing or proposing a large expenditure. It's a series of recommendations. For example, if we've run heat smart campaigns, we've run community solar campaigns, we've raised about $750,000 for the county through the work that we've done through NYSERDA grants. Could be over $1 million by the end of the year for EV chargers and EVs that are being purchased. That money came in because of the work of the task force. Todd Meltz, Supervisor Knopf played a big role in all that. That money wouldn't have come in had we not been doing that work over the last couple of years, at least a substantial amount of it. So we're looking to use $30,000 plus in-kind support toward opening up more grant opportunities, not committing the county to more expenditures. It's the opposite. We've saved money through the efficiencies that have come through the solar that's being generated.
But
Saves money.
there's not a big purchase at the end of this.
There's no big purchase.
So it's fair to have the chairman just review it and then make it.
Well, and anybody else that wants,
I think so.
suggest everyone on the committee should review it.
I think I'll take a look at it as well. But just understanding the timeframe. We have to come to the meeting next month and be approved in July.
The July board is okay to approve it?
That's the absolute outside date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there was no resolution to the table, right?
No.
No.
Because
It's
it
just
was a-
discussion.
Okay,
All right, thanks.
thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Bill Fish, you're up last, but not least.
Run over.
That's all right. Our public works is 5 o'clock with a stipulation if county government runs over. So we're good.
Realize all kinds of things.
Oh.
Well, thank you, everyone, and it's nice being here with y'all. And first of all, we couldn't have asked for a much better fair housing month. It was just great. We started out with a radio interview with the local community station and with the talk show host, the Reverend Tim Singletary. And, got the word out on what we were about to do for Fair Housing Month and, the good events and everything that were coming up during the month. And of course, we received the proclamation from the County Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much. We do exhibit that at these functions to let everyone know what how the county feels about fair housing and so forth. Certainly, we do join in with the feds. The National Fair Housing Month is always April, and so we declare and proclaim our month as also April. We distribute quite a bit of information at the upcoming events. We always try to get out things from the New York State Division of Human Rights, also the HUD's information on how to file complaints, etc., and the Tenants' Rights Guide, which I have brought some in case anyone wants to take them along with them. This is the most recent update of the Tenants' Rights Guide. And then I try always to put together something for the paper and something for distribution. And this is pretty much how where the county stands on fair housing, and also lists the protected characteristics and classes that both the federal government and New York State indicate, and also how to report discrimination. So I have some of those over there if you'd like to pick those up. We also did distribute these. The landlord tenants rights form. Gosh, we got, going back to publicity, we got a lot of publicity. I don't know if you saw it. We got front page coverage for both the upcoming events and also when actually the tenants' rights, landlord tenants' rights form concluded. We also had front page coverage on that, which we were very happy with. And I think that helped in getting people at the, certainly at the landlord tenants' rights forum. We had probably 35 people there on April the 10th. And of course, also distributed a lot of information there. As far as speakers were concerned, we had Dale Ann Brown from Section 8 out of Schenectady. She's the regional director there. We had City Judge John Connor. We had OFA advocate, senior advocate and attorney Rosalie Charpentier was there. We also had Kurt Neller from Neller Insurance, because we do find that a lot of people, particularly renters, don't have renting insurance. And when there is some kind of catastrophe or problem, their personal property is not protected. So he actually spoke on that. And then we had Justin Elliott there. He's a firefighter. He's also a fire marshal. He brought up the importance of smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, exit plans in the event of a disaster, and so forth. And I did a little stint on fair housing as well, but it was quite informative. We did have a couple of landlords there. Most of them were tenants, and there was a lot of Q&A for the last half hour of the forum. And then the poster contest, great fun with those kids, unbelievable. I started out by asking this little riddle. I said, why did the teddy bear not have dessert after his dinner? And no one answered. And I asked again, and this little girl from third grade raised her hand. She says, because he was stuffed. So, so that's kind of how I broke the ice with the children. I like to bring the fair housing down to their level the best I can. So I put it, usually put something in there as to young people and how they have had a big impact on civil rights and so forth. So I naturally did bring up Brown versus the Board of Education little girl there that, actually had a great impact on civil rights. I mean, she had to cross the tracks to catch a bus to go to a school in Topeka, Kansas, because the schools were segregated. And so that bring them into it. She was only 11 years old when, the case was brought before the Supreme Court. So try to keep it on their level the best I can. Actually, we judged all the posters. We had three schools participating. I would have been happier if we had all six, but we had Germantown, New Lebanon, and we had Taconic Hills. Last year, the only school we had was Hudson, but we were coming back from COVID. But this year, between the three schools, we had 96 posters. And so you can imagine, the Housing Advisory Board served as the judges. We came up with nine winners. We had first, second, and third for third grade, first, second, and third for fourth grade, and then we had three honorable mentions. And it was just great fun. It was difficult judging, laying all these posters out. But anyway, and we had the awards presentation. We were able to get Post 184 in Stockport. It's the Hudson Post out on Route 25. The venue was great. I set up 40 chairs, and by the time everybody was in, I had to set up 10 more. We had about 50 people there. Of course, it's students, it's teachers, it's parents, grandmothers, friends, and so forth. So, that was really, really, really great. And we have, cookies and punch afterward for the kids and so forth. So it was really a great time. I enjoyed it immensely myself. And so what I've got here is just a couple. I got three posters here, which and you can see what the kids were thinking. Well, I guess I got four. This one loved the whole world, I guess.
Oh.
So, but you can see, like this one particularly has a person of color. It has someone in a wheelchair, and it says "Sell houses fair." And so, they were really cute. And so these are just four. I'm going to take them back to the schools probably sometime within the next week or so that not just these, but all of the posters that submitted. This was the program that we actually handed out. And you can see really pretty good, the pictures, those are the winners there on the program. It says on the side who the sponsors were. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors. The kids, as far as the grades were, or the prizes were concerned, we gave the winning teacher of the first place winner a $50 gift certificate from Staples, and first place got $50 gift certificate. Second place got $35, and the third place got a $20 gift certificate. And so we always send out this for both the teachers and the students because it gives them an idea. On the back, it tells them what fair housing means, and on the front, and this it says welcome housing. I'm welcome to choose where I live, and then a little coloring sheet that we give out. But all of the information regarding fair housing is on that. And this is the certificate that everybody gets, even though anybody that participated gets that certificate. And here's pictures of some of the kids receiving their awards. And so it was really a good time. So every school got a calendar, at least one calendar with the posters on it, starting with starting with April, Fair Housing Month for the rest of the year. So
Do you have any thoughts here?
this one happens to be the Taconic Hills one.
Yes.
Uh,
Limited printing.
But we, like I say, it was really, really a fun time. So I know you folks, I got another meeting coming up. So we look forward to doing these things again next year. And gosh, I can't say enough about the Housing Advisory Board. They, the Housing Advisory Board, we had about 5 members in attendance from the board that night. And it was just, they were a big help, making the punch and handing out the awards and so forth. So, that's pretty much, but like I say, it was really a great,
You have a little.
Fair
Do
housing.
they go
month, I
inside
think.
or just sit on top?
Just on top. Brenda,
Thank you, Bill.
And-
Appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, and just,
Bill, can I have that? Thank you.
I do have some over here that you can pick up. And, the calls I'm receiving, they're the usual security deposits. There are strict laws on when people should get the security deposits back and how they should get them back. And they got warranty of habitability is always a big thing. And I can only say that, I am getting calls and I do try to keep up with them best I can. I try to get back to everybody, particularly if I can in the same day or the day after, because there's a lot of anxiety when they get these kind of things. So,
Thank you, Bill.
all right, thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, second. All in favor? Aye.